This is my favorite royalty-free stock music at the moment. Welcome to this special edition live stream where we will be making a tier list of everything I watched and played in 2021 that I remember. I have two separate lists, one made for things that came out last year, and the one made for things that I happened to watch last year but came out before then. But that list is probably like very incomplete because I didn't keep good track of things. I'll try better to keep track of things this year in anticipation of doing this again. But and doing the list of new stuff might take too long, and we might not even have time to do the other thing. We'll find out. Maybe we'll talk about Inside Job for like an hour and a half because that's probably what'll happen. So we can get the ball rolling. We can get our other royalty-free music going because that other one is short. And hopefully it's all set up. So what you're all gonna learn today is, first of all, how I don't like review most of the things that I watch and play, even though I should. I want to get better at that. But also, everything I like is completely disconnected from each other. You're gonna see probably the weirdest list of interests ever. Or by that I mean, probably mostly some things that you won't know, or just like I don't know. In terms of the new stuff I went through last year, it actually is mostly seemingly familiar stuff. I just looked at something on here and was like, what the hell is that? I remember what it is now, but not when I first looked at it. Am I allowed to just, how do these work? Am I allowed to just spoil all the options? Because there's all the options. I even had to go out of my way to use Firefox for this because how Firefox actually hides the ads on this website and no other one did. Although I guess I shouldn't point that out. So we have, very simple, we have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. Very rarely do I ever, we could have an F tier, but very rarely do I ever hate something enough to consider it F worthy. I'm probably not even going to consider much of this stuff D worthy. We're gonna try to have it as organized as possible and have the strongest opinions imaginable. So we can start off with I tried to organize it too. It might have randomized, shuffled itself. But our first few things should be cartoons or TV shows. That's not a cartoon. If it was, it'd be more interesting. Anyways, right off the bat, I guess weirdly alphabetically, we have Adventure Time Wizard City before the getting those together again came out first. But that's fine. We'll work with Wizard City first. So good thing this is a special exclusive moment because we never made a review for Wizard City after it came out because we all got too busy. That rhymed. But Wizard City is it really surprised me. I think the biggest thing that disappointed me about it was that it didn't end up being as lore significant as the other Adventure Time specials were. Especially Together Again, it was a huge surprise how much lore stuff was going on in Together Again. But it kind of, all the other specials kind of set that expectation that the other Distant Lands episodes would have some sort of exciting, super niche to hardcore Adventure Time fans would lose their minds over this type of reveal. But kind of the only thing Wizard City did was introduce some new aspect to the lore of dark magic, which I guess was always there, but was a very minor thing. So this special basically gives dark magic a true introduction, and then over explains it to a point where I felt like it was confusing and I didn't understand what they were trying to reveal or what the mystery they were trying to build up or anything was. So that aspect of it had it fall flat quite a lot for me, especially compared to the other specials. But the basic arc of Peppermint Butler and the silliness of the wizards and all the cool designs and the backgrounds and the animation, it's a lot of fun. And a lot of people say the Adventure Time fandom turned their back on the BMO special. Now everybody says that the BMO special of Distant Lands is the worst, which I guess I could see because maybe it's the most boring. You know, I mean, like Wizard City has more dynamics going on. People love new characters and like character dynamics and stuff. So I can see how Wizard City is like a more popular one, but I don't know. I feel like the imagination of the space world that's in BMO is like really interesting to me. So I think I would stick BMO above Wizard City. But where would I stick Wizard City in the tier list? That's a tough one, but I'm gonna say B, just because I know that there's like even the thing coming up, or like there's things that I would consider A, because they would be notably better than Wizard City was. But Wizard City is still great, and hopefully we find the time to do a review for it, even though it's not relevant at all anymore. But I guess it was never relevant to begin. Like, was this the least relevant episode of Adventure Time aside from like the 3 or 4 episodes that never got commercials? I don't know. Next we have Invincible, which honestly I should have reviewed but didn't. And it's that, like, Invincible is one of those things where you remember that it came out last year, and then you're like, that was last year. But Invincible is freaking awesome. It's one of those shows that like I first sort of looked at. I don't know when. I know TikTok exposed me to it, because of course it did. And I think I just saw a clip and I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. I think I should watch that. And then it turned in like into the next big thing, you know, for like a month or two. And prior to being the big thing, it was a comic that I had never heard of, and such, as is usually the case with comics. But it's so cool. It's hard for me to remember it now because it was like at the beginning of the year. But you know, it's very rare for me now to want to binge watch something. And Invincible, I think we had to wait for episodes, right? But like I was always right there watching it, and always wanted to keep watching it because it was so exciting, and it was so fresh for a superhero thing, because you know I'm a normie and I'll watch superhero things, as you could probably see from what's coming up. But like seeing such a, not just the gore, but like the father-son dynamic that was going on in here, which is like a type of really weird father-son dynamic that like you've never seen in anything else either, just makes it really cool. So I'm gonna give Invincible A for now. It could possibly be S, maybe, but I think the fact that I don't remember it that much, like I don't remember any specific episodes aside from the last, honestly. So I think that kind of prevents it from being like an S quality thing. I think S would be reserved for something that like made me cry. Which I think there's only one thing on this list that did that. Next is Inside Job, which I don't want to be rude. You know, we could try our best not to be rude, but that might be the only D tier thing we get on here, though. Inside Job, it's not fair, because a big thing that made me be turned off by Inside Job was the fact that it was, at least in terms of like our very, very small net cartoon community that exists, we were all, the only thing we ever saw of Inside Job was like, oh, it's Alex Hirsch's new show. Except I didn't even realize until I was watching the show already that he was like just like a producer on it. He didn't actually make it. So I mean, that's fair. But it was several, not just the creator. What was her name? Shion Takeuchi was her name, I believe. I think she did some of the best episodes of Gravity Falls. And then I think just some of the board artists and stuff were from Gravity Falls too. And it has this sort of setting and aesthetic where you're like, oh, okay, mystery show. And then like it's kind of not. It's kind of just, it's just an adult cartoon with a notably more interesting setting than other adult cartoons, and a great protagonist and great amounts of relatability. Not, you know, not too much. It's not too crappy. It was just kind of a disappointment because there's like a lot of it that's not funny. I can't even remember episodes. Towards the end, it definitely got interesting. Did I even make a video review of this? I believe I did. Right? Did I, or did I not upload it or something? But the big thing that dragged Inside Job down is that it tries to do the thing that literally every single show does now, where they want a deadbeat dad storyline, because I mean, I guess there's a relatability to that, and that's why so many different types of media have, you know, stories about good dads and bad dads. You know, like that's a very, if you pay attention, that's like a very frequent trend in not just cartoons and video games and everything. And Inside Job does a bad job at that, because it creates this dad character who tries to be Rick Sanchez but isn't. Like, he's nowhere near as funny, and he just comes off, especially because the show is very grounded, he just comes off like genuinely rude. Like, I would never want him to be redeemed, and then what does it do? It tries to redeem him, but then it doesn't. But then it does. It's like it sort of, the season definitely ends with him being the villain, still in a very literal way. But you know, I just worry that they'll like, he's not a character that should ever be a good guy, and we don't need a show that's this long to or we don't need, you know, 7 seasons worth of a show to to get us to the conclusion that the dad's a bad person. I appreciate the monkey emoji, but that's the maintenance one? Does that mean the stream's falling apart or no? Then next, more Adventure Time. Hoorah. Adventure Time Together Again. Okay, well, did Adventure Time Together Again make me cry? It makes me cry thinking about it. I don't know if I really... It's just one of those things where you're awestruck by it when you first see it. So, you know, I mean, that's definitely an S. Just because everybody had a very set expectation for... You know, everybody was like, that's the dude that made Inside Job. Rude. Like, somehow the fandom was able to properly predict that Jake the dog was dead, and whatever episodes were coming up next was going to be about them handling Jake the dog's death. And not only did they do that, they also handled Finn's death and the death of everybody in the show. Spoilers. And it has like this really creepy intro scene that I will forever be obsessed with. It's just such a cool journey through these really unique dead worlds. It's a perfect little ending for these characters, and it's just such a surprise ending. But it's just the kind of thing that only Adventure Time would do, you know. And I say that all the time whenever I talk about Adventure Time. But they really went all in on making this the most Adventure Time, you know, closure finale type of deal possible. Because the series finale, I love. A lot of people apparently hate it. I love the series finale, and I think that still is a fantastic finale for the series because it's so grand. And you would want a show that's gone on for this long to have a very exciting finale like that. Together Again is a little more low-key. It still has plenty of excitement and surprises, but it's not as grand and mind-boggling in a good way as the original series ending. So it's just very sweet, you know. It's such perfect sweetness, and I love it. And it's very sad. And I mean, if I watch it again, I'll probably cry. But it's an amazing inspirational ending. Let me take a sip real quick. All right, I should have muted. Oops. Oh, next we have the show that I'm still waiting for to come back. The second season didn't even finish technically. There's some things. There's a lot of technicalities to what's on here, but Central Park is a show that literally nobody is watching, that everybody should be watching because it's amazing. It's an adult cartoon that, you know, it hits that sort of Simpsons level, I guess. Like, people say, I don't know. I mean, that's not fair necessarily to say, because I don't know much about the Simpsons. I'm just saying in terms of the tone of it, like, Central Park is a show that your family could watch, you know. Like, it's not super adult in any way that like would make a kid upset. It would just like go over their head. But what makes it that I think a lot of people don't realize is that it's a musical, and the series is like a full-blown like Broadway style musical. Like, everything's sort of framed and choreographed and paced in this like very authentic musical way. It has a ton of Hamilton people, at least doing the voices. I don't know how much of the writers are people who are actual like super well-known musical writers, but obviously a lot of the singers are, and they're all amazing, and all the songs are great tunes, and it's just so chill, yet it manages to have a story that kind of keeps you interested, even though it's not a super exciting story. Why did they not advertise Central Park at all? I don't know. They did, though, kind of, because I remember seeing YouTube ads for it. I felt like whenever I saw it, I never got the vibe that it was a musical. I would have watched it instantly if I heard saw one of the cool animated song sequences. But it just kind of seemed like they, unfortunately, dropped the ball on like getting people to know that fact. And I didn't know until one of my friends posted about it on Tumblr, and sort of one of the songs became a trend too. And I was like, oh, it's like a musical? I have to watch it. And it like is a musical, and it is the only cartoon TV show that is a musical in this sort of way. And I love that. I'm a secret theater kid who knows nothing about theater and has never actually seen many musicals because it's freaking like impossible to, because you have to go to theaters and it sucks and I hate it. I mean, I like going to theaters. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do, especially right now. So, I've been missing out on the musical world that I know I would love. But this show is a perfect little piece of that, and I wish more people were watching it. And I wish that it would come back from hiatus, because season 2 came out, had like 8 episodes, and then it just stopped. And then like I can't find any of the crew on Twitter or anything, so it's just kind of not there. But it is getting a 3rd season, so I still think there's some of season 2 left, and then a 3rd season to come. And then, I mean, hopefully more. I'm honestly kind of surprised that it's getting a 3rd season, because based on how little I see about it. But it's amazing. I listen to the soundtrack all the time on Spotify. It's just a lot of fun. Is it as good as Invincible though? Is it better? I can't. I guess I have to. How'd I compare those? It's definitely A, but is it Invincible? Honestly, I think just because I consistently listen to the music, these are like completely different things that you could barely compare. But I think just because of how often I think about Central Park, because the soundtrack ends up coming on in my playlist, I'm like, it's a bit more of a personal favorite than Invincible, but also it can't be compared to Invincible at all. Now, next up, I could have picked a better picture for this. But, Crown Cryptid, why'd you put Pibby on the list? It's like a minute and a half thing. Yes, I know, but it's also like the only thing I'm known for anymore, so I felt the need to include it. But where the heck do I put it? How do I compare it to other stuff? I don't know, because it's not like it's anything. It's just kind of like this great surprise. We have to pray that it's going to become a show, because it's such a silly concept, even if it doesn't end up being like, having any sort of real good, well-written depth or anything like that. That's what I know. It's rude of me to expect that, but I kind of expect if this becomes a series, it'll probably just be like funny, and like the charm will come from seeing the ways that they use the copyright and stuff, or get around using the copyright and stuff. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, but I don't think it'll be Invincible. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to lose subscribers. I don't want to say it's bad. It's definitely not C. I'm thinking B or A. I feel like A might just be a little too high, just because there's not much to it. It's just a little short. That's cool. C tier. Someone in chat saying C tier. I wouldn't say C tier, just because it was still exciting. If I wasn't interested in it, I wouldn't have made 4 videos about it. Like, of course, part of me is doing that because I recognize that people want to watch that content, but also it was really fun to go frame by frame and see what kinds of Easter eggs and stuff. Like, there's some passionate people behind this, and it's a very interesting passionate creation. So you know what, we'll put it behind Wizard City, and we'll hope that it gets a full series. We will very much hope that it gets a full series for my living, for my livelihood. Close enough. I don't even like. This is another, just like Invincible. It's like Close Enough came out last year, and it did in like July, I think. The second season, anyways, came out in like July, I think. And you know, I mean, it's kind of rude to say, but I get what happened. Amp, you watched season 2 with me. What's like name a single episode from season 2? Because I remember season 1 be great, very, very funny, very silly. Like what stands out, if you want to know what stands out about Close Enough, because it kind of seems like nobody has seen it, is the like there's a real relatability in Close Enough. Like, I'm not like a parent, but like the way that they make jokes off of smartphone type things and all that stuff, like it's genuinely actually funny, and you can tell it's coming from people and not coming from like a corporate mind, like Emoji Movie style. The guy who can smell oil, the bodybuilding. I can't say I remember the guy who can smell oil, but I do remember the bodybuilding, and that is great. I don't know. I mean, like, it's weird to say that Pibby's better than Close Enough, though. I don't know. That hurts. The new phone that takes over. I do remember there being like a evil phone thing, huh? I don't know. It's not fair. It's not fair because we just binged it so fast, and comedy shows like this, it's hard to necessarily be super memorable. But I feel like C's too low. But I think we'll just pop it in C for now, but just because of the unfortunate fact that it slipped from my mind. I mean, again, I can't even believe that it came out last year. Next up, I mean, I think we should stick with the cartoons before we go to the live action stuff. I don't know why Squid Game ended up over there. So let's stick with the cartoons while we're in the cartoon mindset. Close Enough should be between Pibby? L? I don't know. Yeah, no. I say so. You're right. Chat, you've convinced me. We've moved it. Infinity Train Book 4. Once again, it doesn't feel like it came out last year, but it did. This came out in like August, which is like pretty recent. That's something that's so interesting about Infinity Train, is that people act like it's been gone forever. The show has only been out for like 2 years, and the latest season is like 4 months old. Like, relax. It might get a new season. Like it sucks that it's gone, but like everybody goes so crazy about it. Meanwhile, I've been here since I was 8 years old, waiting for Invader Zim to come back. But book 4 is good. Ta-da! I feel like I talk about this anytime Infinity Train comes up or in my videos about it and stuff, but I don't like book 1 that much at all, because I appreciate what it does in terms of Tulip's sort of character arc and her backstory and stuff. I feel like the way that stuff is represented is fantastic, because stuff like, you know, divorce specifically is what that season is like about, and like you'd never seen a Cartoon Network show deal with it the way that show dealt with it, and that's a fantastic little thing there. But where it fell flat was the use of the train. I feel like for a show called Infinity Train, it's not until a few of the later seasons that you actually see the train be weird, like be as weird as it could be, like Adventure Time levels of weird, because that's what the show is to me. At least when I hear that title, I expect this weird, straightforward character developing adventure, not something that's like basically solely about a character or about the train. And season 1 tried really hard about the train's lore, I mean, because season 1 tried really hard to give the train lore and like did the thing with the conductor, but oh no, but the conductor is actually this person and this thing happened and here's a backstory of this character who we just met 2 minutes ago. And it's like, no, like just have it be Tulip going through the train and have the train be cool. Like, that's all I wanted from that season. So it didn't deliver. Season 2, much more interesting because it had a way more interesting dynamic. I can't remember too much about it, so I don't really know much else to say, but it was very exciting. Again, had a great theme. more weirdness, which is what I want. Book three is miserable in a good way. I mean that by that I mean like it's really dreary. Like I don't know, maybe somebody went through a breakup when they were writing that one or something, but like it's very, very like almost overtly off-putting in the ways that it tries to like, you know, be surprising in ways that cartoons aren't usually surprising. But it's also, there's an ounce of like unpleasantness to that. Like it's just sad. There's just a lot of sad stuff. It doesn't even like end in a happy way really. And it ends sort of too quickly too, book 3. But book 4 was nice and well rounded, but I feel like it just kind of lacked some excitement. Like the drama between the two characters who Min and Ryan, correct? I just remember that like the other day. Min and Ryan. The drama between them is like kind of the best, you know, character duo, I would say. I mean, Simon and Grace are good too, but again, just like the edginess aspect of that story kind of takes away from it. So I feel like there's a nice wholesomeness to their relationship and how it develops. The carts were very, very weird. There just kind of was a little bit of a lack of action going on, I would say. So I don't. Is everything going to be B tier? Probably, because it's hard for me to have strong opinions. I would say I'd put this lesser. Maybe it is a little more than Wizard City. I would say yeah. Honestly, I would say Infinity Train just slightly better than Wizard City because it tells a little bit more of a complete story. You know, like I was saying, something that drags Wizard City down to me is that aside from the main arc, it kind of introduces all these mini arcs that were like confusing and it feel like they don't amount to much. And then, you know, Infinity Train feels a little more complete. Is that inside job at D? Yes, unfortunately. Keep in mind too, this is all trying to be relevant to each other. And just in terms of like how I felt from what I watched last year, like I would say Inside Job was just kind of a lesser thing that I watched last year, but kind of because my own set expectations for it. Next is Rick and Morty, which honestly, the past 3 seasons, I think it is the past 3 seasons of Rick and Morty. I don't like remember them. You know? Like the standout of this this wasn't the really weird season with the baby stuff, was it? Or was that the season before this one? I don't even remember. Excuse me, was that this season? I don't even remember, which is why maybe doing a tier list was a bad idea. But the standout of this Rick and Morty season is that it ends with the big Rick backstory reveal that we were all waiting for, but it does it in like the most like, okay, we get it kind of way, where it's just this super sudden finale episode where everything goes by really quickly. I mean, the sequence animation storytelling wise is great, but for how long they've built up not only like the Morty villain character, but also Rick's backstory, like if they made this is kind of like this season's finale is something that deserved to be like a 3 episode, 4 episode type deal with much more excitement and a lot less super quick resolution and super quick like, you know, like we get it, like here's Rick's backstory because you all wanted to know Rick's backstory so bad, here it is. You know, there was a weird level of bitterness in the way that they revealed that, I feel like, in terms of from the creators. I mean, I feel like the creators kind of like they just felt like they had to make that episode because they wanted to get the story out there so that they could keep making fun of movies from 2002 that nobody has watched. So like the joke is that nobody watched that movie and they make fun of it or whatever. But I don't know, my interest, Rick and Morty creatively, like in terms of its designs and stuff, is awesome, but my interest in it is just fading so much because it's just been so mean, and that's kind of the joke. But I'm not really in the mood for the level of like self-depreciation type humor that Rick and Morty goes for nowadays. And I just don't really remember much that happened in this season. Well, this was the season with like the Captain Planet lady episode and stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I was watching it all at work. We could say C for Rick and Morty. We'll have our first actual C there. Now, Kid Cosmic. Now we're talking. Now this is a cartoon, ladies and gentlemen. A cartoon that probably few people are watching. Kid Cosmic is a new show from the creator of Wander Over Yonder and Powerpuff Girls, and you can tell that within like 5 seconds because he uses all the same exact voice actors. The art style is actually pretty unique compared to his usual stuff, but there's an ounce of like, you can tell, at least especially the alien designs. Like you can tell every alien design from Kid Cosmic is like one that he wanted to have in Wander Over Yonder, but Wander Over Yonder got canceled. And Kid Cosmic is awesome. The big problem with this new season 2 came. I don't know if both seasons came out last year. I think just season 2 came out last year, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But the big problem with season 2 is that it was too short. I wish it was longer. It definitely paces itself really well. I don't feel like anything went too fast or it left anything too open. If anything, the setup for the next season happened too fast, but I guess it kind of had to. But like, yeah, I kind of see no specific flaws. It's just like a really fun cartoon, really interesting drama. I would say definitely the first season had much more interesting drama because it was more surprising. Like I didn't expect the sort of like arc that the first season sent Kid on. Season 2 definitely focuses more on Joe as a side character. And it was kind of annoying that the whole arc is pushed by like that purple alien lady who's just like a jerk the whole time and like is telling Joe to do things that are obviously wrong, but she still does them. Even though she at least did push back against the ideas, so she wasn't completely stupid like some other similar stories can end up feeling. But it was still good drama, and seeing the aliens worlds is so cool. The villain was really funny. Like it was a very funny Thanos parody. Like you could just tell that they have the time of their lives writing the show and putting it together. And it's definitely an A tier for sure. I feel like the show, it's not fair to compare again because Invincible is so violent and it's very different, but I feel like if you consider both seasons, because Invincible is not finished, Kid Cosmic isn't quite finished either, but I would say, both seasons of Kid Cosmic combined are better than Invincible. Are they better than Central Park? Well, is Kid Cosmic a Broadway musical? I didn't think so. So no. So it loses solely because of that. I think maybe. I don't know. We'll come back to that. But again, I just think Central Park crosses my mind more because of the surprise charm of it. And okay, some more live action stuff got ahead of the game here. Monsters at Work, another show that kind of nobody is watching. Or nobody watched. I don't know if it ever got official confirmation of that another season is coming, but I loved this show. I could definitely see how people do not like this show because they probably don't like it for the exact reason that I like it. And the reason I like it is that the gimmick of the show is that the main character Tyler wanted to be a scarer, but he gets thrown into being an engineer, and he's forced to hang out with all of these engineering coworkers who are total weirdos. And I could easily see people thinking that those side characters are like really moronic and annoying, but I thought that they were really funny. And I think the dynamic of Tyler wanting to do everything in his power to get out of that job position, but being stuck there by these people who are horribly optimistic to the point that it drives him crazy, is really funny. I think the comedic duo of a grouchy character with obsessively peppy characters is fantastic, and that always works on me, and this show did a really fun job at that. And it's also really, really good at like staying in the Monsters Inc. universe, which like the Monsters Inc. universe, what? But it's really good at keeping the old characters there in ways that doesn't feel super forced. Like Mike and Sully become the CEOs of the company based on the events of the first movie, spoilers. And so that like leads them to interacting with the engineer characters and stuff in very natural ways, or having plots revolving around Mike and Sully in ways that doesn't feel like either cast of new or old cast is getting different amounts of screen time. So it just like it just worked so well, and it was really funny all the way. The disappointing aspect comes from the fact that Pixar didn't make it themselves, which I thought they were going to, but they didn't. Just like some random animation division of Disney did it, and the animation itself isn't really that good. The designs, like everything matches the Monsters Inc. universe and stuff, but the animation could have been more expressive and interesting than it actually is. But I guess Monsters Inc. isn't really known for its animation, really. I mean, they probably only made Monsters Inc. because they wanted to like test a bunch of fur technology. But it's still great. It was a great show. I don't know what I rated it in my review, or if I did at all. Would I put it above Close Enough? I think so, just because I remember it more. Like Monsters at Work, I talked about this in the review of it, but there's a repeating joke about how so many people in this engineering position in the show died horrible deaths, and they're just constantly being like, oh, I remember when Joe like fell in that machine and got torn to shreds, haha. And like that's it. That's the joke, is that they just explain some horrible way somebody died. Like it's really funny. And there's this one character that they consistently bring up, and they like even kept a piece of his hair, as if he like, because they respected him so much or something. And there's an episode where his hair goes missing, and they have a whole holiday where they respect this guy's death, or like act like he's still alive even though he's not. Like it's like, it's not the kind of humor you would have expected from the show, but I found it hilarious. Owl House doesn't count because it's not finished. Disqualified. No. Owl House is really the only like recent kids show, that like a brand new kid oriented sort of story focused show that I really like. I think I would like Amphibia. Amphibia just kind of seems like it's very outwardly silly in its first bit, but I've definitely seen the darker stuff that happens, and that has me interested, but I don't know when or if I will get to it, but I know that I should. But Owl House, I mean, I think a big part of Owl House is just talking about it with my friends, because we've been doing group reviews of it, and having that sort of feeling of community as we all enjoy it together, or notice weird things about it together, has been really, really, like, I haven't had that before with another show, and it kind of has made this show very, very, very special. I'm sorry, crap. And yeah, this new season has been really cool. It's the impressive thing about Owl House is the fact that it's going to end soon because Disney canceled it way too fast. But it's like, it's going at a rapid fire pace now. Like season 1 was doing the Gravity Falls thing, where like every other episode was some weird, like super painfully tropey filler thing. You know, still entertaining because of the world and the characters, but like something that you've seen before without any sort of pushing this lore forward. Season 2, every single episode pushes the lore forward, and more than half of the episodes have like been very pseudo horror. Like there's been a lot of very cool, weirdly creepy, perfectly mysterious stuff going on in this season. And they introduced the anti-hero character Hunter, who I love and is kind of become my favorite character of the show. And you know, yeah, like it's just interesting that it's pushing its story forward so quickly, but it doesn't feel rushed somehow. Like it's constantly giving you new information and characters and tidbits of the world that you need to like focus on and remember, but it never feels like it's too much. And I always am ready to see more, and I'm very ready to see more whenever it comes back, which is apparently going to be soon, but we don't actually know how soon. So honestly, you know, man, I feel like I'm dissing Invincible too much, but I think we would put Owl House as our current A, our first top contender of A. I think just Invincible needs to like be a little more finished than it is. Then we can start talking about its worth on my opinions list. I've also been doing this for 40 minutes, and we're We still got a lot to go on this one. So today we probably won't get to the other list of older things that I watched. But I mean, that's a good sign, because that means I'm enjoying myself, and that means I'm talking way too much. Now, let me take a sip of my drink very quickly. Alright, apparently the hotkey I used to mute my mic makes something on Firefox show up on screen. Now, next is... Now, this one doesn't count. This shouldn't technically count for this list, because this is Star Trek Lower Decks. And Season 2 came out last year, and I still haven't watched it. And I need to watch it within the next 2 months, because my Paramount Plus subscription is going to end. But I did watch Season 1, so technically... Season 1's from like 2020, so it doesn't technically work for this list, but I'm gonna keep it, and I'm gonna say that I like the show a lot. I like it more than Rick and Morty. Dun dun dun. It's that kind of thing where, I mean, I'm not a Star Trek person. I just love alien type space stuff. The most Star Trek I've seen has been the very recent like reboot movies, and then like 1 or 2 episodes of the older show in my sci-fi class at high school. But, you know, if I was just looking for a silly, weirdly violent adult animated show, and Star Trek Lower Decks gives you that, you know? It obviously has come from some of the people behind Rick and Morty. It has that sort of, the adult animation art style that I hate, and yada, yada, yada. Like, who cares? We can't do anything about it. I'd rather shows look like Rick and Morty than have shows look like Family Guy, because at least shows that look like Rick and Morty can have cool creatures and things like that. And I mean, even just the way the character designs look, I don't think is that unappealing. It's just very, very simple. But Lower Decks really surprised me, because it has that sort of, even more so than Rick and Morty, it has that gimmick that I love that Solar Opposites has as well, which, it's right next to it. How's that? So, you know, this little triforce of Rick and Morty style shows that also just includes Rick and Morty for some reason. But there's like a pacing to these shows where it starts off with like a very simple setting, like very simple sitcom setting, and then there's like a sci-fi spin on it, and then the other half of the episode is like the craziest nonsense you've ever seen in your entire life, and there's people dying every 5 seconds, and explosions and character development and all sorts of stuff, and it's just so it's so fun, because every episode is a surprise, because you never know what type of weird insanity is going to happen. And again, I'm not a Star Trek person. Tulip in chat here says that she's not a Star Trek person either, and you don't have to be. I guess kind of to understand like the setting of the world you have to be, but it's not like, and there are some like direct jokes making fun of like Spock and things like that I guess kind of don't work if you don't understand what's going on, but you know, that doesn't, the actual character arcs and things that are going on you can absolutely understand and enjoy. And it's just a lot of fun. The cast is really fun, and it just gets so weird in ways you wouldn't think, because you wouldn't think that Star Trek is the kind of universe that would allow for the weirdness and like the you know, amount of dirty jokes and violence and stuff that this show has. You would think that Star Trek would be almost like a, you know, you think how Disney treats Star Wars, like everybody hates Rise of Skywalker because Disney made it like as clean as possible type of deal. Like you would think Star Trek would be in that same sort of boat, where they don't really want to sully it with like dirty jokes and gore and stuff. But I mean, this show just does whatever it wants, and it's really weird sometimes. There's a whole episode about an evil parody version of Clippy that goes around trying to kill everybody, and he shows up like multiple times because the writers thought it was so funny. And it like it is funny solely because you're like, why is this in my Star Trek show? So I think, you know, it was a big surprise, and it's really fun, and it's better than Monsters at Work. Is it better? Again, just judging the first season. Not that I would anticipate the second season to do anything. It's weird because I think my personal preference, I think yeah. I feel like it's wrong to say because I think, you know, story structure wise, like Wizard City and Infinity Train are probably stronger things. But for my personal preference and what I look for in you know, in just something that's entertaining, like Star Trek Lower Decks surprisingly had it all, and I will put it there, and everybody will call me crazy, or they'll be like, "What show is that? Is that Rick and Morty?" And I'm like, "No, Rick and Morty's right underneath it. You can't tell the difference between these two things." And then Solar Opposites, which we were also talking about, which, I mean, I don't put this as an A tier. Who cares? I'm gonna put it in an A tier. Tulip's talking a little about Star Trek here, though. Yeah, the lore specific jokes don't really bother me usually. I just kind of get it from the context. I've never seen other Star Trek, but Lower Decks is a lot of fun. Apparently, Star Trek in general is just silly. Actually, probably not quite in the same cartoony way as Lower Decks, but yeah, I didn't learn that until like this year. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a surprise to me too. Star Trek, you know, you can look at it and think it's silly because it's like a bunch of people in alien makeup and stuff all the time. But I mean, I guess I remember the that's kind of a new Hollywood thing though. Like every newer movie, newer live action movie will have all sorts of interesting, very easy humor going on. But yeah, I remember the newer movies being pretty funny. So I don't really know how much the older show is funny, but that's good to know. Will I ever watch it? I don't know. It's like 6,000 episodes. Also, our let's AFK for 1 minute, and by 1 minute I mean a few seconds, because our yeah, there we go. Our music stopped for some reason. So there we go. We got a new music playlist going. Yeah, that was only a 47-minute playlist apparently. Whoops. All right. Back on track. We were talking about Solar Opposites. I mean, the stuff I say about Solar Opposites is kind of the same as Star Trek Lower Decks, except Solar Opposites is not based on anything else, and it's its own property. You know, so that sort of makes it stand out. But also, it's just a much better Rick and Morty, because it's much more optimistic in a weird way. Because I was trying to say, like, Rick and Morty just kind of drags me down, because so much of Rick and Morty is just making fun of stuff and being really bitter about these weird things that like most people don't even care about. Solar Opposites is just total fun. Like, it's a complete sitcom parody with a family of aliens that work amazingly off each other. And much like Star Trek Lower Decks, you know, the episode will start off with a very simple sitcom-y thing, then they'll introduce like a sci-fi element, and then it'll go insane, and there'll be like, there's a lot of gore in the show, and I love comedic violence, and this show is filled to the brim with it. And it has this weird subplot about a society of small human people, and the first season sort of used that as like a B plot usually, but slowly actually made it really like dramatic and exciting. And then the second season, I think second season had much less of the, at least from my memory, I think the second season had a lot less of the miniature human society thing. It kind of just saved it for one big episode, because they did like a full episode about it, because like that's the extent, that's how dramatic they felt like it has gotten. And it's, you know, it's totally silly, but it's genuinely pretty exciting, and it's just funny. It's just really funny to see them take something so simple so seriously, and it's just a ton of fun. I absolutely recommend it. It seems like it's a pretty good success. I don't see much people talking about it though, because most people, you know, on Twitter that are in the groups that I'm in and stuff, they kind of just focus on like what's on Disney Channel and TV and stuff, and not these sorts of adult shows that are on streaming. But I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, like if you're okay, if you find violence funny, basically, and occasional dirty jokes and things like that, then you'll love the insane silliness that's in these two shows. So, you know, Solar Opposites definitely goes further with it. Also, Solar Opposites and Star Trek are made by the same guy. Like Justin Roiland and him, Mike McCann or something. I think Mike McCann made Star Trek Lower Decks. That might be wrong, but then the two, him and Justin Roiland together, made Solar Opposites. Oh, so like regular show? Yeah, kind of basically like regular show. Like it, Solar Opposites would have a very simple like, because they're aliens. Like the plot of the episode would be that like the little kid wants the dad character to like make her a machine that helps her do better at school, and she does that. And then like, oh, but big twist, like everybody else in school wants their own machine, so the kid tries to make her own, and then like it turns into a giant spider and it like eats everybody. And like that, there you go, that's the episode. Like that type of deal. There's also, interestingly, like weird, there's like sort of LGBT representation here, because it's like they're essentially two dads. Like they kind of treat it in a joking manner, but I forget their name. Corvo, I forget the other guy's name though. But like they're like literally in love. Like it's pretty funny the ways they make jokes about that. It's not kind of as direct, I'm sure, as people would want it to be, but like it's kind of, I guess it's direct in like a weirdly casual way. It's interesting. It's a surprise, I guess, that they even take it in that direction at all. But that does it for the cartoon TV shows. We have anime coming up, which is a separate thing, and I'm sure several people will just stop watching when I talk about that. but next we have live action stuff, which comprises mostly of Marvel movies. So Marvel fans, grab your capes and your shields, and let's talk about those in a few minutes. Because first we gotta talk about Squid Game, because Squid Game's still like a thing. S tier for Squid. You know what? I mean, yeah, it's hard not to say that. There's really nothing that drags Squid Game down, in my opinion, in terms of like, what I would be looking for, because I'm sure people notice from the content I make, or they're just not familiar with it at all. But I recently became a big fan of Danganronpa, which is a killing game story, which is, characters get thrown into a situation or some sort of game, and to win it they have to kill each other. And you can't not love a concept like that. It's just it plays at the human mind, and it's exciting. And Squid Game takes that idea, puts like a really, really, really depressing social commentary aspect over it that makes it really powerful and relatable to like anybody who ever watches it, except for rich people, I guess. And it's just so cool. It has really cool designs. It's really tense. I think the only thing that really drags it down is there's like, I'm sure everybody says this, there's like, it does this arc about like people stealing the dead body's organs, and you're just kind of like, what does this amount to? And it doesn't really amount to much. It maybe is more so there for like a political, deeper sort of reasoning, but it just kind of seems like a weird distraction when it's going on in the episodes. And the episodes are long, but they deserve to be long, because it's not like it's that many episodes, and it does tell a very, very complete story that could also still continue, but feels complete as it is. And if it does end up continuing, which it has to because it made like $1 trillion, I would hope and expect that whatever comes next would be like a subversion. Like, it would focus on like people trying to crack down on the game. Like, it wouldn't focus on the game, it would focus more on the human world, and like be a sort of like detective or secret agent type of perspective, at least. Maybe not story necessarily, but like that kind of perspective on the world that this has created. Yeah, it's just cool. I mean, most people have seen it, so I don't, it's not too much to say. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't remember too much, but it's just that perfect it's just that perfect horror, but it's horror that isn't horror. Like, there's not jump scares or things like that, but it's a very unsettling and engaging series that, I mean, like a trillion people have seen, so we don't even need to keep going with it. Turner and Hooch, this doesn't even count because I didn't even finish this, but this is a Disney Plus show about Josh Peck as a policeman and a dog, and new episodes would come out every day that Monsters at Work came out. So me and my sister watched this like as a joke because we love Josh Peck. We watched maybe 4 or 5 episodes of it. It is like It is awful. Like, it is so stupid. Like, it's like a robot made it, because it just tries to. It's just like the most generic thing you could ever imagine. Like, the dog farts like multiple times. Like, that's the joke, is that the dog smells bad. Like, it's so stupid. But there's a mystery. There, something happened to Josh Peck's dad. He was fighting against like a drug cartel or something. He went missing. Like, where'd he go? I do have to finish it to understand what happens in the mystery. But and it's just weird because it does occasionally have cool action and like a lot of pyrotechnics going on. Like, they blow a lot of stuff up for no reason. And also Josh Peck is like made of iron and can never die, and has like the most plot armor you will ever see in your life if you, for whatever reason, watch this show. But yeah, I just figured I'd put it on because I remembered that we did watch it, but it's bad. But it's entertainingly bad. It's not bad like you hate it. I guess we could make an F tier for it, because it's not even comparable to Inside. Like, Inside Job is way better than it. Still, like, maybe I didn't like Inside Job, but Inside Job is not Turner and Hooch on Disney Plus. But it's just stupid. Like, if you're like 7, you'll probably like it, but also it's kind of violent and has guns and explosions and stuff, but I guess parents don't care about things like that anymore. I mean, it's about police officers at the end of the day, so take with that what you will. But yeah, it's silly. It's pleasantly silly. It's fun to make fun of. Kids can enjoy it, but it's not good. But the dog's cute. Next up, we have our Marvel stuff. I mean, is that the only? Okay, maybe we should do Marvel all on a set, because probably nobody wants to listen to it. I mean, I feel like most people have the same opinions about most Marvel stuff, but let's go. We can kind of go in order. Let's start with WandaVision. WandaVision, honestly, it's not that good. Like, the most interesting thing about WandaVision was the build-up around it, and how excited people got about it, and how there was all sorts of theories going around the internet about, like, anytime an episode came out, it would end on a very interesting cliffhanger, but everybody set their expectations too high, and it ended up kind of just being a very straightforward character arc. So any sort of big surprise that people expected didn't happen. But also, there was a big surprise that the show itself sets up, and then it's a joke. And I was upset by that thing, but that's kind of a spoiler. But it's a wholesome, straightforward story. I just think it builds up to the mystery too much. Like, it could have been like 2 or 3 episodes shorter than it is. Rip the B guy from WandaVision who never got explained. Exactly. I forgot about that. Excuse me. But yeah, I just think, like, it could have told its story much faster than it does, but it tries to milk it for a long time, to treat it like it's this big mystery when it kind of isn't. But there's some interesting little pacing moments and things like that. So it's good, it's enjoyable, and the highlight of it to me, because I'm a dork, is the set design and all the ways that they captured the sort of authentic feel of the sitcoms that they were parodying, and even some of the fourth wall stuff they did, like the characters talking over the credits, and like that world that she lived in being observed from the government people, seeing it as an actual sitcom and stuff like that. There was some really interesting creative stuff in there. Like, Marvel's always doing cool creative stuff. Like, they're putting their money towards doing things that are interesting, even if it does sort of feel like it's the same movie sometimes. But yeah, WandaVision's good stuff, but it's not the best stuff. I would say, I guess, bottom of B tier. It's kind of, I feel like that's not right, but it's really hard to compare live action to animation because I love live action so much. Loki is so cool. The problem with Loki is that I wish it ended. Well, the problem with Loki is that I wish it ended rather than like kind of just building up something and then like just ending, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we wait for season 2 or the next movie or something. And also the romance. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like kind of everybody probably doesn't like the romance that much. I mean, it works, but it's kind of weird because the spoiler aspect of it. But just the concept, even just from preview stuff I was seeing, like Loki, I think I was a few episodes behind on it before I started watching it, but once I was seeing like, oh, it's about like the universal time police that like make sure everything, like they pull in people who are time traveling to set the timeline straight and stuff like that, and it's like this weird, it's time police, you know, and it has this really cool like sort of 60s WandaVision-esque like office space setting. It's so cool. It's so cool. It has some boring moments occasionally, but it's really cool. And the problem with it is that I think they could have just done more with it, in that it doesn't really end. And like its final episode is like them talking to this guy the whole time, and you're like, who's this guy? Then you look it up and you're like, oh, he's like a comic thing. Okay, but the show itself doesn't do anything to make that guy actually seem like that big of a threat or anything, I guess, until the very end, when it ends, and then you're like, oh, okay. And also it does the kind of thing that the newer Star Wars movies did, which I liked when they did in Star Wars, but here I didn't like, where they build up that the villain is going to be a certain thing, and then the villain isn't that thing and it's something else, and the something else that it is nowhere near as interesting as what it was building up to be. Like, yeah, what they were building up was weird, like very direct, very comic booky, very silly, very like overtly like, oh yeah, of course those are the bad guys. That's the Time Lord. Like, they're the bad guys. But I don't know. Like, time travel and multi-dimensional stuff's cool. Like, why not have there be a time council or whatever? Like, I thought that would have been cool, but they do a subversion on that, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I wanted to see that cool stuff. And I love Sylvie, though. Sylvie's my girl. Sylvie is cool. All the characters are cool. It's a good time. I would say, oh man, is it better than Wizard City? I don't know. I feel like it's really good. But I mean, come on. It can't be the Adventure Time. It can't be the Adventure Time. It's Adventure Time. Okay, well, we'll speed up the Marvel stuff a little bit. Shang-Chi next. I think that Shang-Chi, Spider-Man. Shang-Chi is good. My problem with Shang-Chi, I guess it's easier if we just start talking about the problems. My problem with Shang-Chi is that it got so over the top. Like, they did not have to go to a fantasy world and fight a dragon in this movie. It was working so well just as a like sort of father-son weird dynamic like kung fu gang fighting movie. Like, and I'm sure most people probably agree with that. It's not, it's not like the Magic World stuff is awful. It's all framed very beautifully. It looks really cool. Like, it basically ends with a kaiju fight, and like, it's cool. But I just feel like the way the movie starts and the way the movie ends are very different in a way that, you want that to happen in the movie, yes, but in this movie it happens in a way where it's like you watch two different movies, and that's sometimes a good thing, I guess, but not a good thing here. But I love the characters. Like, he's got to be like one of my new favorites of the Marvel world now. So, I'm excited to see more of him and his buddies. I just think that this movie kind of took too much of a sci-fi turn. But was it still better than WandaVision? I would say yeah. It has excitement that WandaVision doesn't have, but it does just go a little too insane. Oh, excuse me. And then we have Spider-Man. Spider-Man is awesome. I don't know where to put it though. But Spider-Man was such a big cultural thing going on. All the rumors for like the whole half of the year. And then it came out and like it just did not disappoint at all. Like, it's so exciting. It's so visually interesting. Also, Doctor Strange is my favorite. Bias moment that Doctor Strange and Spider-Man really are my favorites of the Marvel world, and the stuff they do with them, the way they interact, Doctor Strange's powers, just any way they ever use Doctor Strange's powers, and the ways that they frame and animate that. Like, nobody will ever. No, but then, it takes a really specific kind of person to care about special effects. So I'm sure there's probably not that many interviews and stuff about the ways that they creatively come up with the ways that Doctor Strange uses his powers. But man, it's always so cool. Like, the trippiest, like, crazy big budget stuff you will ever see, and it's awesome. And this is just a great movie, and it ends in a really surprising way that changes the status quo that I wasn't expecting, and it's awesome. And it has, you know, and it has those surprises that people wanted it to have, and they are so funny. And as somebody who has a strong fondness of previous Spider-Man movies, what it did for some of the characters there and the scenes and stuff was very, very satisfying for me, and I loved it. And I would say it's S. I would say it's just, a big part of that too is just the community aspect. I mean, it was pretty much the first time I saw a movie where the audience, like, was active. Like, you know, usually you see a movie and people laugh, but I mean, I'm sure any theater with this movie opening weekend was people who were all clapping and yelling and were exciting. And you're like, you know, some people are like, oh, that's annoying, like, you're all weird, stop clapping and try and watch a movie. But this was a movie that was made as a fan service event, and it's fan service in the best possible way, and it's just a blast. It's a blast. Now now we talk about the complete opposite. Space Jam 2. Space Jam 2 is awful. Like, it was so bad, and I hate that it was so bad, because I remember people kept tweeting and being like, oh, this is so bad. I remember people were tweeting and were like mad about Rick and Morty being in it, and I'm like, what? Like, isn't that kind of cool? Like, isn't it kind of cool that, like, a cartoon, like a modern cartoon, got into this Looney Tunes crazy thing that's mostly Harry Potter jokes and stuff? So I still like that. That's kind of my favorite thing about the movie. There's really good 2D animation for the moments that there's 2D animation. I mean, hell, the CG animation, you know, it isn't super realistic, but it is really amazing looking. Like, there's cool choreography and stuff going on. But, you know, like, you know, the people who did the visual stuff for this movie, dude, they're onto something. The people who did the writing for this movie and the acting for this movie, oh my god, like, the acting is so bad. It's terrible. It's I mean, I'm not one to ever notice that. I'm usually optimistic and don't notice bad writing and bad acting and things like that, but this movie was just like, I didn't want to keep watching it, but I had to. I literally watched Space Jam 1 before watching this one because I was weirdly like excited and wanted to know what the hype was. And I mean, with this one, there's no hype. There's the argument to be made about the corporate, you know, Warner Brothers crossover, yada yada going on, but just, you know, putting that aside, even just as entertainment value, aside from the visuals of this, aside from the visuals on display in this movie, like, because they probably had a huge budget from the NBA, aside from that, this movie's awful. Plus, our lead character, like, it's kind of like a father-son story, but he's so mean. Like, you don't root for the main character the whole time. The character you're rooting for is Rick and Morty, and they're on screen for 5 seconds. So yeah, you're down. Even Turner and Hooch is more fun to watch. That when you say something's bad to watch, like it's fun to make fun of, Turner and Hooch is more fun to make fun of than Space Jam 2 is. Because Space Jam 2, it just sucks your soul out of your body, and you're like, why did they make this? Or how could they have possibly made it so bad? Now, complete opposite of the spectrum, Mitchell's vs. Machine. Mitchell's vs. Machine goes all the way up here. Do you remember the Space Jam 2 joke from Gravity Falls? I can't say I do, but if you explained it, I probably would. Mitchell's vs. Machines is awesome. I reviewed it, so I mean, there's not too much more to say about it that I probably didn't say in the review. But it just oozes style and passion in a way that no other animated movie recently really has. And yeah, like, it's coming from some of the Lego Movie people, so I was gonna say, like, oh, the most, like, recently super creative, you know, movie was Lego Movie, but I guess, well, there's Spider-Verse as well. And hearing, you know, take, like, Spider-Verse being such a success and them actually proactively applying the the technology and the creative ideas behind Spider-Verse onto a completely original IP it's awesome that they were allowed the opportunity to do that. And it's awesome that I see on Twitter the director of this movie, Mike Miranda, like being super passionate and optimistic every day. Like this is the movie that has those kind of vibes that we need more of in the world. It's just so amazing, and it's very funny. It's very silly. Like this would be one of the first movies I show my kid, type of deal. Yeah, unless it's not relevant, but it'll probably be even more relevant in the future. You know, everybody was worried that it had like the cell phones are bad type setup, but the actual movie does not. You know, it does it in a funny way. It's not saying anything strong other than you should love your family, and like, you know, you should love your family. That's it. It's just so sweet. And the credit sequence showing pictures of the crew with their families. I mean, it's the exact opposite of Space Jam 2, where Space Jam 2 didn't even credit half the amazingly talented people that worked on the damn movie. I don't want to look at Space Jam 2 anymore. But yeah, the Mitchell vs. Machines, awesome. Certainly probably the best movie that came out last year. And, you know, it'll be a while before we get something as good. But, I mean, if Sony keeps moving, like, Hotel Transylvania 4 just came out. I'm excited to watch that. But Sony is just, you know, I want to say that they're good because they're green-lighting things like this. Like, they have a K-pop Demon Slayer movie coming out. Like, if that uses this type of animation, that's going to be, like, my favorite movie ever made. So I'm really excited for that. Sounds weird hearing you say negative things. That's how you know it's bad. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think anybody has ever said anything good about Space Jam 2, so it's okay. If anybody said anything good about Space Jam 2, it's, again, like I was saying, the animation and, like, you know, I don't know if the passion behind the animation, but I mean, just the technology behind some of the animation is really good, but everything else is awful. It's rare that I watch a movie and want to stop watching it. Because I only seek out movies that I know I would like, really, you know? And this is one that I thought I'd get something out of, but then you don't. Back on Space Jam 2, joke in Gravity Falls. During Giffany's backstory, there's some binary text on a computer screen that translates to Space Jam 2. It's in her DNA. Now that you say it like that, I recall that. That's great. Let me take let's take a little bathroom break. This is going on for much longer than I thought it would, but that's a good thing. So let's take like a minute or two break. We'll be right back with more movies, followed by anime, followed by video games, followed by the end. So stay tuned. All right, note to self: drink coffee and energy drinks before doing a stream, because that's what I did today, and that's why I'm going crazy. But also, you know, we're talking about things that I like, and what's more fun than that? Mostly things that I like. So we'll keep it going. Next one is pretty hard to equate. I don't know if equate is the word to use. This is Bo Berman's Inside, which it's an experimental film, I guess you could say. You know, it was the talk of the town for like a month, and now it's kind of died down. I hear it on TikTok still sometimes, but it's very, very interesting. I don't remember it too vividly. Like, I just know the music, because if you watch it once, you're gonna know the music for the rest of your life, because it's all just bizarrely, like, extremely well made. Like, I don't know how music production works at all. So considering that this guy did that all in his room because he was sad is incredible. And it's also silly, you know, it's this perfect sort of dark humor little confined masterpiece, because it's not, you know, it has elements of dreariness, but it masks the dreariness in very weirdly upbeat humor, and that's my favorite type of deal. So on top of just having great music and being a very, very, very unique and interesting experimental little movie, like, I'm so glad that it was able to be put out at all. It rules. You know, it could potentially be a little hard thing to watch because of the because we're still in quarantine, kind of. But it rules. I would say we put this in S, honestly. You know, I have to watch it again, really. But much like Central Park, the music from this comes in my Spotify all the time, so you know that means something. That, you know, if I ever think about something beyond just watching it, that means it's ARS tier worthy for sure. But did it have Spider-Man style fan service? I don't think so. Hello. Now, got something. I mean, I guess we could have counted this with the Marvel stuff. This is Suicide Squad. This is what at the beginning of the stream I was like, what was that? But no, this is the Suicide Squad. Sorry. This is a movie I need to watch again, but honestly, I don't like it that much. I don't know why. I just feel like, I think there's this sort of like cultural thing surrounding it where it's like, oh, it's so much better than the other one because it's James Gunn. Yo, James Gunn is like so funny, like he's awesome. And like, I mean, I guess I have to agree with that because I really like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But I don't know, something about that, like the attitude towards this movie where everybody just praises it for being like this very specific thing by this very specific guy. I don't know why that drags it down for me, but it just does. I don't know. That's like rude of me. But I don't know. Somehow it's forgettable, but it has it has some cool stuff. The villain is cool. Like, the big monster villain is cool because it's really weird. I appreciate that they were able to get away with making it R and having it be really weird. There's a very funny subversion sort of joke at the beginning of the movie that I saw coming from like a mile away, but like it was still funny. And I guess, and interesting, and hopefully a surprise to people that didn't think that the movie was going to open that way. But I don't know. It's good. I mean, it's probably stronger than Shang-Chi, honestly. Like, I think it might even have a style to it that's more appealing than Shang-Chi was. But I think that works. I would say I put Loki above it because Loki's concept is more interesting to me with the sci-fi type stuff. Tulip says, well, okay. Amp says the Suicide Squad greater than all of the MCU, bruh. But Spider-Man though, Amp. Okay, I didn't see you clapping during Suicide Squad when Harley Quinn belly button showed up or whatever. Tulip says, I like the Suicide Squad, but I would have liked it a lot more if they didn't have such excessive violence. That's just me, though. I mean, that's the weird thing, is that, like, I can't even say I remember any specific moment of violence, you know, but I guess that's just me being kind of numb to it. But I don't know. I appreciate violence when it's, like, funny, you know? Like, this is a movie that tries to make humor out of really gruesome explosions and death and stuff, and I can enjoy that. I don't personally see a downside to that, but I can see others seeing that for sure. But I guess on a similar note to the Suicide Squad, I would definitely put Deadpool 2 above it. I don't like Deadpool 1 much at all, because I feel like Deadpool 1 Deadpool 1 like prioritizes being edgy. Deadpool 2 prioritizes actually being a interesting movie. I appreciate fictional violence. Chat, fictional violence. Next, Encanto. Interesting. We talk about rated R movie and then go to rated G movie. That's probably PG at this point. Encanto's interesting because, I mean, it's rude of me to say that it's overhyped, but that's, you know, I feel that way about it, but I can see where the hype comes from. But I personally kind of got nothing out of it, aside from, you know, it looks beautiful, and the music is great. I mean, you know, the music is a very specific, you know, it's the Hamilton guy who wrote it all, right? So, Lin-Manuel Miranda, the Hamilton guy, the Hamilton. I can see people like not enjoying that type of music, or like already being tired of that style, because I'm sure many musicals to come are going to have his style, whether or not they're written by him. But I mean, this is a movie where like nothing happens, which I could see the appeal in. Like, there's a, you know, that doesn't have to be Raya and the Last Dragon where there's like a big epic adventure. Well, Raya and the Last Dragon's over here. Let's move that up and we can talk about that next. But it was just kind of, it's like boring, you know? But like, it's kind of, you can't really say that because it's kind of like a Ghibli movie type boring. It has kind of interesting lore going on, but I don't know. I feel like it was not the movie's fault, but I did fall asleep watching it my first time. So the next day, I waited till the next day to go back and finish it, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. We're getting like the climax and stuff. I had like 10 minutes left of the movie, and it was just like the characters apologizing to each other, and then they sang, and then it ended. And I don't know. I would have thought there would have been a little bit of drama or something, but it really is just very a straightforward, like the main girl, the main girl has no abilities, and she wants an ability very badly, but needs to learn that it's okay to not have one, and like that's it. That's the whole movie. I do like having an evil old lady, though. I mean, she's not really that. She's not evil. She's just kind of there's, you know, misunderstanding type deal going on, and she becomes nice by the end. But I don't know. I liked her sort of the weird, like subtle, casual, realistic way that she was threatening was pretty cool, and it's visually impressive. I need to find the time to listen to the soundtrack standalone. I think that's, or watch the music sequences again, because that would probably bolster it up. But I think for now I would say, I mean, I don't know, the animation's more interesting than Close Enough, but I just feel like in terms of, I mean, it's a musical, so I feel like that beats Shang-Chi. I guess we put it there. I don't know. I feel like I was just being really negative to it, but then I put it kind of high up compared to other things. But I mean, it's a cartoon. You know, Shang-Chi's not a cartoon. Encanto's a cartoon. Boom. Checkmate. Encanto's good. I like the funny house. That's another thing. I feel like the house didn't freaking do anything. I feel like we already seen that concept in Beauty and the Beast and stuff. I feel like the movie unfortunately didn't do anything sort of new with that idea of the house aside from the magic stuff. I mean, like the literal, like, you know, passing on, everybody getting like a magic room and abilities and stuff. Like it warrants more exploration. what was going on in the movie, but they kind of just make it really simple, which, you know, works in a way, makes it unique, but for my personal sort of taste, it just kind of wasn't entertaining enough, I guess. It's the My Hero Academia plot. I mean, it is, but kind of everything has that plot, and it's a good plot because, like, it's a relatable thing. But, you know, instead of superheroes, it's just this family who lives in a secret house, and that's not as interesting as some other things with that sort of premise of a character with no power surrounded by people with powers. Tulip says it's not really about her wanting to get a power. She's trying to save the magic for everyone else. True. She does try to save the magic. And how did she do that? By, like, apologizing and, like, that's it, right? Like, I don't know. It's got Bruno though. I mean, he was a funny character. That was a great. We don't talk about Bruno. No, you know, that's all. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, but there's others that I certainly like much more than it. Like Raya and the Last Dragon, except I guess not really, because I don't remember this movie. This movie is also from 2020, correct? Or is it from last year? Whatever the case. I watched it sort of recently. And by sort of recently, I mean long enough ago for me to not remember it that much. But I mean, this is an exciting movie. I was very surprised by this movie, the way it's sort of, you know, it follows kinds of like sorts of modern Disney tropes, like having quirky side characters, and they kind of build like this found family type deal going on. But I mean, it definitely had much more exciting action than you would expect. Do I like it more than Encanto? Cringe. No. I don't know. I might like them more. More Slash J. I know. I get you. Yo, Bruno, classic. Listen, Bruno is classic. Okay, go listen to that music. So go. I have to. That to-do list tonight is fall asleep listening to the soundtrack for that. Cryptid does have cringe taste. I know I do, but shut up. No, can't say shut up to chat because then other people are gonna think I'm saying it to real people. Literally nobody talked about Raya. Exactly. But you know why? Because Raya was Disney upcharging you $30 for this movie on Disney Plus instead of putting it in theaters, which was the stupidest thing in the world, and they're still doing it, maybe. Well, Encanto they just put on Disney Plus for free as like a Christmas surprise for some reason. So I mean that was good. But Raya, I mean honestly, I don't have like too much memory of Raya. I just think that like I think it boils down to this, is that Encanto, you know, whether or not I liked either one too much, Encanto is a musical. Raya's not a musical. Raya, like, is cool that it isn't a musical. Honestly, it kind of has like a grit to it. And like I was trying to say, it has really cool action and gorgeous animation. Not to say that Encanto doesn't, though. They both do. And I liked it. I liked it. It's cool. I can't remember it too much. Wasn't it problematic? What, Raya? I mean, Disney can't not make something that isn't problematic. You know, I'm sure Encanto has some sorts of secrets going on that I haven't heard about. Why did they Elsa face the dragon? That's definitely the worst part of the movie. Well, honestly, I remember finding the dragon character pretty funny. Like, again, the kind of found family, like, weird, like, mixture of characters that this movie ends up having. Surprisingly works well, even though it's like, oh, like there's the funny baby who's like actually a smart baby. Oh, I'm just a stupid baby, you know, like it. But it worked, you know. It's fun times. But I'll appease the audience saying Encanto's better, even though it isn't. No, that's wrong. I don't know where to equate either of them. I gotta rewatch both of them. I definitely, you know, I fell asleep watching Encanto. I got sleepy watching Raya. So there you go. That's how we rate those movies. We want another movie that I don't like? Free Guy. What a bad movie. And it stinks. So Free Guy is the Ryan Reynolds comedy movie about an NPC who becomes self-aware. And I don't know, something about that concept had me interested. It does do a good job of like actually making interesting video game type humor, like a video game world that, you know, Wreck-It Ralph style, like you could see it being a real video game even though it's clearly cinematic and stuff. You know, and I remember the trailers, I was interested by it and I wanted to see it, and we saw it, and it's bad. It's just one of those things where maybe if you had an audience and you were hearing the audience laugh, you'd laugh a little more, but I just kind of wasn't laughing. The best thing about the movie is that it ends with this horribly sappy rom-com-y romance type thing going on, and it worked on me. I was like, oh, that's cute, I like that. Like, it sucks, it's stupid, but that always works on me, darn it. And I liked that about it. I appreciate, I guess to an extent, I appreciate Hollywood, acting like video games exist. But not good. Inside Job definitely better than it, because Inside Job actually made me laugh often, at least. Also, a weird thing about Free Guy, because my dad wanted to watch it. That's how we watched it. I watched it on demand with my dad, and I was like, why on earth does my dad want to watch Free Guy? It turns out they because Disney bought Fox when the movie was in production, they added Marvel and Star Wars jokes to the movie. I think they literally delayed the movie so that they could add a couple of Marvel and Star Wars references into the movie, which that's Hollywood. That's what they think is funny now, and I mean, it's kind of charming. Like, it's, it works. It works because I'm an idiot. Luca Pog. Now, when I say, because Amp was calling me out about it, when I say like Encanto was Ghibli style boring, I mean that it's a movie where the stakes aren't super high, and that works. That can work. I feel like I think it's just more of a personal thing that Encanto's family secret magic house stakes didn't appeal to me in the same way that, Luca, are people going to find out I am a fish boy stakes was much more interesting to me. I just feel like the settings and the characters and even the animation, just because, Encanto's got the Disney designs and Luca's got the Pixar designs, and there's like a level of risk in a weird way that Pixar is allowed to take that Disney's animation usually isn't, and it's just cool. It's a great movie, and it gets you at the end. It does this stupid Pixar nonsense that gets you at the end, and it always works. Where do I put it? I don't know if it's S tier. I'm gonna say it's top of A tier, honestly. But it's very close to being S. But Bo Burnham's Inside is a musical. I mean, I don't know. It's probably better than Spider-Man in terms of rewatchability and like story depth and stuff. Like, Spider-Man gets so many points because of the cultural stuff behind it. Yeah, okay, that feels right. That feels a little more right. I gotta watch Luca a second time for sure. It is cool, and if you somehow haven't seen it, it's totally worth it. I would even, if you somehow skipped it too, Onward from last year, Pixar's other movie from last year with Tom Holland and the blue guy who looks like the guy from Ratatouille. He's a generic white guy main character. Yes, but that movie was really cool and had a very, very, very sweet moral to it. That was fantastic. That is a great movie as well. Pixar never misses except for Brave, which is like their only movie that I remember not liking. Oh no. Speaking of, hey, remember when I said I was going to do Marvel altogether? I forgot about Black Widow because everybody does. I mean, we gotta end the superhero stuff. Why Wonder Woman shouldn't be here? Wonder Woman's from 2020, but whatever. Okay, we'll get back to superhero stuff so that we don't ever have to talk about superhero stuff ever again. Black Widow. I feel like I liked it more than other people do. A lot of people have like a very specific disappointment with a villain in it, but it's like, I'm not a comic book person, so it's not like I could have that disappointment, but I guess the villain was kind of weak. I think it just kind of has the same problem that Shang-Chi ended up having, where like it starts having this kind of interesting, like grounded Cold War setting, and then by the end they're like fighting in a giant floating mansion that's falling apart and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, like it's a Marvel movie. It has a cool opening credit sequence though. That's the highlight of the movie to me. Is the graphic design and soundtrack design of the opening credits, because I love hearing pop songs but sung by a woman in a very sad tone. that was a cool season. You know, it's an aesthetically pleasant movie because I like the sort of time period that it explores, but it's just kind of not all that interesting. It's I don't know, that hurts. I feel like it hurts to put it that low because it was exciting in some aspects, but I mean, I completely forgot about it. I don't know. Let's put it here and see if I change my mind. I changed my mind. Then Wonder Woman. I just wanted to put Wonder Woman on here because I wanted to talk about it, because Wonder Woman has like the freaking weirdest Wonder Woman 1984, right? Wonder Woman has the weirdest comic book movie plot ever. The movie is about a relic that grants wishes. Like that's it. That's the movie, and it's like it's just such a weird plot. It's such a weird plot, right? I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like the villain. I don't know if the villain had a relic or like he just absorbed the power or what. But it's about a guy who grants wishes. Like, it's weird. It's just not the like, because Wonder Woman 1 was like a World War II action movie, and then Wonder Woman 2 is about a villain who could grant wishes. Like, it's just strange, but like kind of in a pleasant way. Like, the villain was the highlight of the movie, even though I'm sitting here saying it was such a weird thing. I think them like resurrecting Wonder Woman's boyfriend was completely unnecessary and done in like a kind of an awkward way, because he like possessed somebody's body or something. Like, they don't ever really explain it well enough. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember much about it. I mean, Wonder Woman's awesome. Like, it's great that Wonder Woman is able to be a successful character. But I think definitely compared to the first one, this was a weird turn, but it worked for me. Like, I did enjoy it. I just wanted to talk about how weird that I thought it was. Technically it doesn't even belong in this tier list because it's from 2020, but where would I put it? I say better than Shang-Chi. Again, it's weird having Pibby on here because it's like a 1 minute thing, but what, just act like it's not there, I guess. And then lastly, for the comic book stuff, well, actually, we can refer to Tulip saying some stuff in chat. Tulip's talking about Black Widow. Not a great return after a long pandemic hiatus, which they didn't even need to do. They could have just put the movie up online if they wanted. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't end up being disappointed by that sort of vibe of Black Widow, but I could see that being a thing that held it back. Tulip also says, never seen a Wonder Woman movie. Wonder Woman 1 seemed kind of bland, but people liked it. Wonder Woman 2 looked like it had a cool style, but people didn't like it. And Wonder Woman 1 was a surprise. I would need to rewatch it again. I think the off point of Wonder Woman 1 that people sort of turn away from is like, by the end of the movie, there is like a comic book villain and like a comic book fight scene. And it just kind of didn't match the weirdly grounded World War I setting that the movie went with. But it did have a cool style of its own. You know, that was a good movie. 2 does have a good style as well. I mean, just look at the graphic design on that poster. Like, I love overly saturated colors. But I don't know, it's weird. Like, Tulip, if you ever watch them, you know, you'll watch the first one, and even if you think it's bland, you'll be like, okay, that was like an action movie. Then you watch the second one, and you'll be like, why is this like a character study of this villain who can grant wishes? Yeah, okay, final superhero thing is Zack Snyder's Justice League, which how long is it? Is it 4 hours, right? Well, we watched it in one sitting, and you know what? It's like awesome. it made, like, me and my dad watched it, and then we skimmed the theatrical movie, and we realized, like, okay, like, now we get it. Even the way that the theatrical version of Justice League like artificially brightens the colors, looks terrible. Like because when you see this movie, you see how it was all originally shot with the original color grading and stuff. So the way when you compare the two movies, just looking at like a single shot from either cut, you could just tell that the theatrical one, they like fucking they upped the saturation to max because they needed it to look like it was happy. Because everything Zack Snyder does is like weirdly gritty, but I liked that grit. I'm surprised other people like that grit, you know, because I guess maybe just theatrical Justice League was so bad that it made people want to see something else, even if it was Zack Snyder's. But I guess people are super foaming at the mouth over his style now, even though I know for a fact that when Batman vs. Superman came out, most people didn't like it because of the Zack Snyder grit. But I did, but now everybody does. But when it first came out, nobody did. But, you know, whatever. But now everybody's drooling over this, and like, yeah, it's cool. I would say the best thing about Zack Snyder's Justice League is the fact that it focuses so much on Cyborg. It doesn't focus on the Flash too much, but he does get way better of a character and an introduction and stuff. But it's like Cyborg's movie, and the climax is very tense. It does like a pretty surprisingly dark thing where Flash uses his powers during the climax as well. That was really cool. I guess the bad things about it are the fact that it's never going to be continued, but you can appreciate that they went back and did reshoots to do some extra scenes at the end, which feel really like just sudden because it's like flash forwards into the lore that isn't going to happen, but like it's like a dream sequence of lore that would have happened but won't ever. But it's cool that we got to see it at all. Like that's the kind of thing that, you know, like that could have ended up as a lost media technically, but we get to see a glimpse of the concept they were going to go for, even if it feels really out of place. And then also the fact that it's in 4:3 is like really weird. Like you get used to it almost immediately, but it's it's weird. Like that's just such a weirdly artsy thing, but you realize that it is kind of cool. You know, it's kind of cool that it was shot and framed in a very specific way, because it's not like most mainstream movies are gonna do things like that. But yeah, I don't know, it's cool. It's cool stuff. I'd put it above this stuff. I'd put it above this stuff. I'd put it above this stuff. This is a tough one. I mean, it's a 6-hour movie. It's weird. It's hard to equate it, but I would say I'd say here. That feels right. It's cool stuff. I don't think it counts as lost media if it didn't previously exist. Well, yeah, but I'm just mean in the sense of like, you know, we'll hear like an interview for like Adventure Time. You know, think about Adventure Time. They were going to make a movie, but then they didn't, and they just kind of turned that movie into a bunch of episodes. But it's like, it could have been cool to see a glimpse of that movie, and that's what Zack Snyder's Justice League does at the very end, where it has this dream sequence that's a flash forward into like, you know, Justice League 7 that will never be made, but it's cool that we got to see like concept art come to life very temporarily. And will they go forward with Zack Snyder stuff? I don't know. I don't think they have any idea what they're doing at Warner Bros. Anymore, especially because of how bad Space Jam 2 was. But it made a lot of money, so whatever. Well, it did exist. The DC Extended Universe was definitely planned out, but the new Flash movie is erasing it all. Like, they definitely had some direction they wanted until each DC movie failed. Exactly. And that's kind of the same thing that happens to Star Wars, and that's just what's so hard about these sort of modern movie arcs, is that, like, they'll just pull the plug immediately, even though they spend, like, 3 years trying to plan where it's going to go. Well, I guess Star Wars is the opposite. They had no plan, and that's why it ended up the way it did. But there we go. So, comic books done. We're almost done. Anime, guys. Is everybody's favorite discussion topic? After I take a sip of my drink real quick. All right. More Warner Brothers with Godzilla vs. Kong, which is bad. No. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong, you know, it delivers on the title. It has some cool fights, but it has really weak human stuff because these movies always do. But for my personal preference, the movie just completely ruins the lore that this MonsterVerse set up. Like, because I never watched them until this year, because I watched them to hype up this new movie. I watched Godzilla and I watched Kong before now, but I watched Godzilla and Godzilla King of Monsters. And first, King of Monsters is awesome because King of Monsters, you could tell it's actual cool, like, fan service stuff. Like, they pumped every monster they could into that movie without really making it feel too cluttered, because that's what you want to see. You know, you don't care what the plot is. Show me the three-headed Ghidorah eating people. Like, it's sick. Like, King of Monsters is sick. Well, sort of those movies and the Kong movie, they established this idea that these monsters are like forgotten, like evolutionary creatures that, like, you know, they're like cryptids basically. Somehow there's giant cryptids in the world, and the way that, you know, they did that by focusing on scientist characters and stuff, and people trying to hatch Godzilla's giant evil egg and stuff was really cool. And then Godzilla vs. Kong comes along, and it's like, nah. You see, inside the Earth, there's another Earth, and that's where the monsters come from. And that's it. There's like the most generic alien world you've ever seen in your life exists inside the Earth, and that's where the monsters come from. And that's the lore. And they introduce that concept, and then they also don't even like pull other monsters from it. And they have the humans go explore it and stuff. It was just so weird. Like, I just want to see Godzilla versus Kong, and you could throw in one extra monster. But they focused on this alternate Earth world for far too much, and it's just such a stupid idea. It's so, like, yeah, okay, it's a monster movie. Like, it's already over the top. But they had a little bit of a grounded storyline going. Kong tells you about the Hollowed Earth monster thing, though? Did it? I don't know if I rewatched Kong during this rewatch, but I don't know. I felt like that was that certainly threw me for a loop when the movie started being about the Hollowed Earth. But it's still a cool movie. You know, it delivers on what you want. I would say I definitely like King of Monsters much better though. Just there's a little bit more of entertainment value in King of Monsters. No, I don't even know where to put this. Let's say here. Let's say above Shang-Chi. Because so I was complaining about Shang-Chi has a giant monster fight at the end for no reason. So it doesn't work. Godzilla vs. Kong is a movie where you think the whole thing's going to be a giant monster fight, and then, you know, like 70% of the movie is. So, ta-da. And I don't know, I guess the weirdness of Wonder Woman appeals to me more somehow. I don't know. They dropped the ball on Godzilla. Should be C tier, you were hating it? Listen. Having opinions is very hard. I don't know. I mean, WandaVision, Shang-Chi, Rick and Morty. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, I guess. Boss Baby 2. Now, bro has bad opinions. Amp, you're not ready for my opinion on Boss Baby 2. My Boss Baby franchise opinions. Boss Baby, like, kind of rules. I hate that it's like become the butt of this meme joke, because it actually has a lot of imagination and really good animation and designs, and it's just perfectly silly. Like, it's not as good as it, but it's like the same level of silliness from like Captain Underpants, you know, like it's not any better or any noticeably like worse. You know, Yeah, okay, it's not necessarily an imaginative idea. You know, it's about a friggin' baby, but both the movies are fun. They're fun, and I mean that's the thing. Tweaking? Am I tweaking? The problem is that when you spend like, because I watched Boss Baby 1 maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you know when you got to spend like 3 years listening to people talk about how bad the first one is, and then you watch it and then you're like, that was good. Like you know, it says something. I like Boss Baby. I will die on the Boss Baby hill apparently, because people are all still hating it. Which Boss Baby movie's better? I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like the second one, I like the climax of the second one. You know, it's goofy. You know, it's goofy as heck. But sometimes you gotta embrace and enjoy that goofiness. And there are movies that, you know, put their goofiness to the moon, and just, you know, choreograph it and animate it in very unique, interesting ways. I feel like the first movie was probably a little more like visually impressive and stuff, like creatively. But I mean, what they do for a plot of the sequel was, I guess, sort of a surprise, because it pushes the story forward. I know it sounds stupid as hell to say that about Boss Baby, but like it's true, because Boss Baby 1 ended in a really sweet way that I guess you expect from the way the movie's narrated. But I don't know, sappy stuff like that works on me all the time, especially if it's about families and siblings and things like that. So the way the second movie continued that, like, was a surprise, because they could have just had everybody be, you know, it could have took place like 2 days after the events of the first movie, but they don't. Everything I've heard about Boss Baby 2 makes it sound insane. Yes, but sometimes you want insanity. Not a stock sequel plot, I'll give it that. I mean, exactly. It's just this weird, it's a weird expansion on the lore that they establish in the first movie. Oh, Coolio, perfect timing talking about Boss Baby, your favorite movie. See, Coolio will say it. Coolio will agree with me that the first one was actually weirdly good. Well, Coolio, you watched the second one too, right? Last night, Soho D tier. Hey, we'll get to that. Now I don't know where to put Boss Baby. I mean, you people are gonna think I'm crazy. Crown Cryptid is wild for this one. Do I like Boss Baby more than Monsters at Work? I don't know. I can't say Boss Baby's better than Encanto. You're gonna cut my fingers off. But I just feel like my personal preference and the silliness of Boss Baby appeals to me more, and I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it there. I'm sorry. L. I'll show you L. Yagami. SpongeBob. The SpongeBob movie. I can't believe this came out last year. I guess it technically didn't, sort of. But man, what a... The best thing about SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run, which I wish they freaking titled it something different, because now the sequel and the third movie have like the exact same title. But best thing about this movie, the animation, for sure. It is so cool looking. Like the style, the pseudo stop motion aquarium decoration-esque style they go for is like perfect. Like they got a vibe here. Like you can tell animation wise, creatively, like they actually like cared to make this movie in that regard. Where it falls flat is kind of just the storytelling and the jokes and stuff. Like it just doesn't, you know, it'll never hit the same way as classic SpongeBob. But honestly, even the second SpongeBob movie I adore, because, you know, like we were just talking about with Boss Baby, like the second SpongeBob movie is so weird. Excuse me. And I just love the silliness, like, that can only be found in a cartoon. And the second SpongeBob movie does that a lot better than this one does. It was fine. It's just a weak concept for a plot. Exactly. I honestly, everybody talks about like, oh, it's so annoying that they put the Camp Coral stuff in the movie. I don't mind that. I just think the way they did it was bad, because the way they do the Camp Coral stuff in the movie is that they basically, the movie's climax is a scene where everybody is just talking about Camp Coral, rather than like having there be a one-to-one connection between the events. You know, like, why not have King Neptune, who's the villain? Why wasn't he like, he had nothing to do with Camp Coral at all? Like, there's no connection between the flashbacks and the current story. And when you're writing a story, you need to have things be connected. So this movie could have started with, you know, like a 10-minute segment of Camp Coral that establishes King Neptune as a villain, or like Gary doing something to make him be stolen that happens in the future. And then we cut back and forth between the ideas, and it actually feels like a plot. But the way it's presented, it's like they wrote the Gary gets stolen plot, and then we're also like, oh, we have to talk about Camp Coral because we're going to make that a show. And like, yeah, the Camp Coral stuff that's there, you know, I mean, it's freaking cute. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know it's not that good, but like, it is cute. It doesn't work from storytelling, like format wise at all. And that drags it down a lot. But like I was saying, the animation's good. You know, it's a fun time, but it's not nearly as good as the other two. And it has the Snoop Dogg, Danny Trejo scene for like no reason. Like, that silliness I can appreciate, but it was just cringy because it was celebrities. You know, if they did that and it was just like random live action pirates or something, rather than a very obvious, like, they needed to put celebrities in here so they could write a song and stuff for it, like, that was weak. It also uses Livin' La Vida Loca for some reason, and it's like the only time that a very mainstream licensed song was used in SpongeBob. And it was, I don't know, it's weird. It's such a weird song to put in. But I guess it worked with the casino setting and stuff, but you know, it was cool. It's all right. Is it better than Godzilla vs. Kong? I mean, you know, it can't be that good if I'm considering it for C. But I mean, the animation's just nice. Is it better than Godzilla vs. Kong? I feel like it is, just because it's animated. Excuse me. But well, Godzilla vs. Kong is technically animated because it's all CG. Literally 10 minutes flashback scenes for each character. Yeah, at the end of Sponge on the Run. I have to actively think about what the title of the movie is because it sounds exactly the same as the other one. I mean, I think before we go to Last Night So, it makes sense to get another cartoon movie, and then we'll move on to anime, and we'll speedrun that because I'm sure not many people here will have any idea what I'm talking about in that regard. But Wish Dragon's weird because I watched it and I was like, that was pretty good. And then I watched somebody else's review of it and they like adored it and were so surprised by how subversive and stuff it was, and I was just like, really? Like, it was just Wish Dragon. But I guess from like, you know, it kind of has a you would expect it to have a cookie cutter story, but like most, I mean, Sony made it, so you know, that's the plus there. Like, you know, like most modern animation stuff, like creatively it's just really cool. And I mean, the dragon character is funny. It's got a sappy romance going on, but it also has like the liar reveal tropey thing that you've seen a million times. But it has cool designs. The villain's like so weird. It's kind of unnecessary to have like the villain stuff go on, but like it works. You know, it's entertaining. It's well animated. It's simple and clean, like the Kingdom Hearts song. But I mean, like it is like, that's kind of just the only ways that I can explain it. And I watched this pretty recently too. But I mean, there's not much else to say about it. You know, it's pleasant. It's cartoony. It's got a little bit of good rom-com-y stuff going on. And again, the dragon character is quite a blast, especially you know, because people apparently compare this to Aladdin a lot. Like, you know, there's definitely a kind of a different dynamic than Aladdin has going on. So it does distinguish itself pretty well. It's a good time. But is it as good as Boss Baby 2 Family of Business? I think so. Is it better than Encanto? Oof. That's where things get tough. I don't know. Maybe it's better than Raya, but maybe it's not better than Encanto. I feel like I put Suicide Squad up too high now. I don't know. We correct these things after we do it. Chinese dragons greater than other dragons. I mean, that is That is for sure. You know, it makes me want to see more dragon animation for sure. LeBron James is staring at me. He is, and he will never stop. He's been staring at you for 2 hours. Excuse me. Okay, our final movie. There's some anime movies, but that doesn't count. Our final movie is Last Night in Soho, which, I don't know, I guess Squid Game is the closest thing to that, because this is a horror movie. Theoretically, I guess the only recent horror movie I've ever seen. And I only saw it because it was directed by Edgar Wright, who is a very stylish and cool director that I love, and is also, like, aside from animation people, is kind of the only director that I, like, pay attention to. And this movie's freaking awesome. I mean, it's dark as heck. People seem like the general film critic population seems to appreciate the style, but hate the story and, like, hate the story direction and think it's kind of bland. And I don't know, I feel like the only thing that was bland about it, even though it still worked and was still scary, was the fact that, like, by the end of the movie, the monster of the movie becomes like a zombie, you know, and it's like literal just like and like touching the girl and like trying to eat her brains or whatever, like that. I feel like they could have done something a little more because the concept behind the monsters that they create is very cool, but the way that they sort of make the monsters a threat was a little bland seeming, even though I don't watch horror movies and can't compare it to something. But I don't know, I feel like they could have done something a little different there. But everything else about it is so cool. It's so stylish. It's made me very obsessed with 60s music. Like that's the best part of the movie, is the soundtrack and the style. But the acting's good, the pacing's good, the build up of the mystery is good. It's just such a cool movie. It's so cool, and it's so it's morbid to say, but it's pleasantly dark. Is it S tier? Of course it's S tier. It's definitely I mean, well, I say of course because Coolio and Amp are the ones who saw it with me. But yeah, it's the best live action thing I've seen last year. Is it even better than Mitchell's vs. God? I mean, you can't. Unfortunately, it's going to be near impossible to beat Adventure Time Together Again, because Adventure Time Together Again has like personal reasonings. But it just beat it. So there we go. It's such a cool movie. If you're okay with horror and very, very off-putting sorts of themes, it's a kick-ass film. And it's so stylish, it's so stark and interesting, and I love it. And it has that kind of thing where it has like a geeky protagonist character, and sometimes that can be done very poorly, but it's done really well here, and like you really feel for her and relate to her, and like anybody, whether or not you're a geeky horror person, will feel something for that protagonist. And it's a blast, and it makes me want to watch more horror movies, and I mean, I'm supposed to. Coolio Cabinet says it's Perfect Blue live action remake, and that's 100% correct. And I think that was specifically an inspiration for the movie. But yeah, if you've somehow seen Perfect Blue, you gotta see this. I know like Black Swan, right? That's what it's called. That's like another movie that like literally has shots from Perfect Blue. I'm sure that movie doesn't even come close to how interesting Last Night in Soho is. Because Last Night in Soho just throws so much together, and it's the style that it oozes that makes it so cool to me. And it's just so, because I don't seek it out often really, and Edgar Wright's the only guy that I know that directs things like this, but just like the style that's present in this movie in live action makes it as interesting as something that's animated. And it's hard for me to say that, or it's rare for me to say that, at least. Coolio Cabinet says do Violet Evergarden next. See, I was thinking about it because I mean, okay, there's actually a small anime section here because these are only the new animes that I watched. I did watch a lot of anime, but we're just going to talk about the 2021 animes that I've watched. We can come back and do another tier list of the remaining things that were old that I watched last year as well, though. But this took way longer than I thought, but that's a good thing. So sure, we could talk about Violet Evergarden next, which, is the most that I have cried in a long time. I think probably the most recent time I cried as much as this movie made me cry was when I first watched Clannad, and this movie still probably made me cry more than that. And even the show makes me cry so much. It's it's just so beautiful. It's hard to talk. You can't talk about it basically without spoiling it. But the premise of the series is about a girl who was a child soldier who loses all purpose in life because she was raised to only know about combat, and then the war ends, and then she's thrown into working as a letter writer, or rather, she wants to be a letter writer because she finds it curious to look into human emotion and wants to understand what love is and things like that. And what is love, baby, don't hurt me, all that. It's very, very, very poetic and like just beautifully presented in the movie. Like it mixes together so many depressing elements, like so many sappy, sad elements, and makes them all work, makes them all hit really hard, and it's just gorgeous. And I'm gonna start crying right now. Think about it. And I hate to do it because I was just talking about it last night, but it made me cry. Nothing else on this list. I guess Adventure Time, sort of. The Children of the Machines probably did make me cry a little bit too, but just because of the artist, like because of how impressive it is and how sweet and passionate you could tell everybody who made it was. Yeah, Violet Evergarden is just insane. It's just that it's an insane roller coaster of poetic, sappy nonsense that is like everything that I love about watching anime. And there's like, an added element that makes it like 20 times sadder is that the animation studio that worked on it got attacked, and like a lot of people who worked on the movie passed away, and that's very, very heavy, but that just makes it all the more meaningful that they were able to have a hand in making something that was so passionate. Anyways, we can move on from that to more anime, but we'll be quick because I know most people don't watch much anime. So Wonder Egg Priority is so cool. Wonder Egg Priority, dare I say, has like the best animation on a TV anime I've ever seen, honestly. Like it looks like a movie. It looks like as good as Kyoto Animation, who they do Violet Evergarden. It looks a lot like their work. I think the problem that everybody who's watched the show can agree is that the show doesn't end, and it has an awful ending where there was like a 3-month delay between the final episode because the final episode was going to be an hour-long special, and then the hour-long special, 30 minutes of it is literally a recap of the series, and then the other half is like nonsense that I didn't understand at all because it had been 3 months since I watched the show, but also because it's just not presented in a very interesting way and it barely ends anything. I feel like, honestly, the last episode of the show left things open for more, but it worked as an end, I guess. So I wouldn't want it to be the end, but I guess now the end that we have just kind of ruins the whole thing. And Tulip says it had potential. It has had potential to become something more, but I feel like even if they just ended it a little better than it did, it could have been great, but that ending just sours everybody's taste of it. But it's so cool, and it has such interestingly designed and like realistic girls, like this cast that is very different from other anime casts, and these themes that it covers that are like so dark. Like I feel like that's the thing that's another, I don't want to call it a downside, but it's like Wonder Egg Priority does try to cover like every single dark social issue under the sun, and it works on an episodic basis, but I think the show would be stronger if it settled down and had like 3 social issues, and then like we dealt with those social issues the whole time. But it does jump back and forth a lot between different characters having different sorts of problems, and like new background characters having different sorts of problems, I feel like it just makes it much more heavy than it needs to be, I think, because it deals with so many different types of problems. But then again, you have to, give it some merit for covering what it does, because it's not like, we will never in our lives see an American animation that isn't like made by some indie studio cover the stuff that this show covers. So that this show having the budget and excitement and humor occasionally and stuff, cool designs and everything that it has, you know, were like rules. There's also a big blatant backstory episode of Wonder Egg that I don't know what the consensus on that one is, but I think that that's one of the most interesting like singular anime episodes, just because it tells such a cool story. Like they could have released that as like a short film disconnected from anything else, and it would have been like this really, really interestingly bizarre, creepy, off-putting little like short horror story thing. So I like that. But yeah, you know, the ending drags it, but the animation is so cool. So you know what we're gonna say? We're gonna put it here. I think, you know, the ending hurts, but the stuff that's good in it is really good. Like it's perfect. It's the perfect type of horror and creepiness and excitement I look for in those sorts of things. Now, I don't know if Amp is still here. We can talk about Evangelion freaking 3.0 plus 2.0, whatever the heck. Well, I honestly don't even know what it's called. But the newest Eva W. Just so this movie rules. I honestly, Amp will be mad at me, of course, but I appreciate the original series and think that it's cool, but it's hard to watch in a way that, you know, it's supposed to be, because it's like being artsy, but like it's I don't know, it's artsy and unappealing. I think it's not optimistic, I guess, is the problem. It's so dreary. The original series is so dreary in a way that like is not fun to watch at all. It's impressive and it has really, really cool animation and cool designs and cool music and all this stuff, but it's just so unpleasantly sad. It has occasional like gross, off-putting things that, you know, everybody just accepts as like, oh, that was artsy, but it's like, I don't know, that was just kind of freaking weird as hell. But the movies, on the other hand, you know, maybe it's kind of a downside to them that they take this much more traditional anime direction, but that's what works with me. And they still have, you know, that trademark Evangelion weirdness. It just kind of isn't wrapped up in complete incomprehensible storytelling. Like there's stuff in here that's completely incomprehensible, but it's at least wrapped up in its lore, and it's not being weirdly poetic. I don't know. That's not the way I want to say that, but it makes sense. And these movies tell a complete story, and this movie in particular has some of the. I mean, all the movies do, but I think this one in particular had some of the coolest like visual, creative sequences I've seen within the year. And it ends on a sweet note in a weird way, and it has interesting backstories and developments. And you know, I'm not one to actually understand anything that was going on in the original series, but the movies actually followed a plot that made sense and were not overtly off-putting. So it rules. This movie rules. This movie is S tier, but I just don't know where. I mean, it beats Spider-Man. Does it beat Luca? Does it beat Luca? I don't know. I think it's just, again, like more of a personal preference thing. It just has that like sort of action and vibe that I look for in my stories. So I think it beats Luca, and it beats Squid Game, but it doesn't beat Mitchell vs. the Machines, because Mitchell vs. the Machines, you know, hits me in a completely different way. You know, they're not comparable, but you know, this is more my style than this is, but I can completely see this movie series, you know, being awesome still. You'll never see something as bizarre as the final act of this movie in a long time. Exactly. Like that's what makes it stand out. The insanity of the final act, that, you know, it rules. You know, that type of weird storytelling rules when it's doing cool things that aren't, you know, very depressing and off-putting like the original show does. And again, there's nothing bad about that in the original show. It's just that it's my personal preference to not really want to watch something that like makes me hate being, like, is trying to tell me to hate being alive. Anyways, now on the complete opposite side of the spectrum is Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which I almost didn't even include on this list because it's such an embarrassing thing to admit to having had watched. But my perspective on it is that, you know, it's made by Kyoto Animation and they're my favorite studio, so I have to watch it. Like, honestly, if it was made by any other studio, I probably would never have watched it. But it's a lot of fun. I did rewatch season 1 actually before watching this one too, and it's fun. It just sucks that it's dragged down by, you know, that stuff that you can't ever like be like, that's okay. Like, you know, there's stuff in this show that you're like, oh, why they gotta do that? But it's just weird because it's like, it's part. First of all, it probably actually had the best animation that I've seen all year, which is weird to say. But also, like, it's part genuine good slice of life zany comedy, part genuine lesbian found family love story, and then part, you know, very off-putting haha fan servicey type stuff. I mean, it's so over the top that I accept it. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm not one to ever be bothered by that sort of, you know, character designs and things. But I could just see it being a very off-putting thing to other people. But it's a lot of fun. It made me laugh. It's sweet as candy, and it, for some reason, has really, 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 really good animation sometimes for, like, no reason. But honestly, you know, I probably won't end up remembering much about it in quite a little while. But is it better than Encanto? I don't know. I mean, I think I'd say above. Suicide Squad shouldn't be here. Suicide Squad can go there. I think just counting in the 2D animation that it has, like, it would be below Encanto if it didn't have as impressive animation as it has. So we will put it there. Now, Akudama Drive is an action anime from the creator of Danganronpa, but it's a completely original thing that it kind of seems like literally nobody watched, but it's really, really cool, really sleek and stylish, as I would, you know, expect from that creative mind. And it rules. There's it takes a really weird direction in the end. Like, it ends in a way that it kind of seemed like the show wasn't building up to that kind of storytelling, but like, it basically within the last like 3 episodes, it suddenly becomes really, really like political and in a way that works and isn't really off-putting or anything. It just kind of doesn't seem like it, because the first portion of the show is like an action mystery, and then by the end it's like a show about like all cops are bad, which works and is entertaining. It just it threw me for a loop a little bit, but it works, and it's so stylish. Weirdly though, despite saying it's stylish and action packed, the animation probably isn't actually nearly as good as Dragon Maid is, which is so weird. But it's a good time, and I need to rewatch it, especially now it has an English dub and it has a director's cut that I don't know. I think the director's cut might only be the last episode. It might just be like added scenes for the last episode. But definitely is worth rewatching sometime soon. But it's cool stuff. It's better than Kanto. I think, is Dragon Maid better than it? Dragon Maid has better animation than it, like I said. But, you know, just the creative mind that this comes from, that, you know, a bunch of personal preference points for being as stylish as it is and coming from a creator that I like so much. You're saying Boss Baby is better than Akudama Drive? Listen, I don't know. This got really hard to to categorize because everything on this list is such a different beast. Shirobako the movie, I don't have too much to say about it. It's a movie. sequel to a show about making anime, and I rewatched the show before seeing this movie in theaters, and it's just adorable and it's a good time. It's very inspirational and interesting. The movies, I feel like the show was kind of more interesting than the movie was, though. I feel like the movie resolves its conflict very, very quickly towards the end. So it's just not, it doesn't have the most interesting sort of plot. It just is very charming and enjoyable. But it's probably here, unfortunately. I reviewed it and everything. So maybe that ranking doesn't go along with how I reviewed it. But that's where I feel it goes. Jonesy and the Tigerfish is a sappy romance about a girl in a wheelchair and a guy who gets thrown into being her caretaker, and it's the sappiest nonsense ever. I think it's dragged down a little bit by having really like petty drama stuff, like like there's a love triangle that goes on, and I feel like that was unnecessary. There's a bit of a plot twist that seemed kind of weird at first, but the way it kind of subverts like the main character's goals actually ended up working. Like it was like an ironic thing. The movie threw in like an irony wrench, which it just seemed very sudden, but it does end up working, and it's very sweet and adorable, and I want to rewatch it. It's going to be on DVD soon, and hopefully on streaming services and stuff so other people can see it. But it was a great time seeing it in the theater. It's adorable, and it makes me want to fall in love just like every other stupid romance anime does. I say here, maybe we put it that feels right. That feels right at the end of A. Zombieland Saga is a parody of idol anime that takes itself way too seriously in ways that are like extremely interesting. Like it's very, very silly, but for some reason the second season goes insane and like creates this backstory and all sorts of lore, and it ends with the weirdest cliffhanger imaginable. It's awesome. It's really unique and it's really funny. It doesn't have it has great music too. I mean, it's an idol anime, of course, but it has really, really great girly anime music, which is my favorite. It doesn't have like the insane animation that Dragon Maid does, but it definitely has a much more interesting and involved and fun story with less off-putting elements. And dare I say, this one's going up. This one's going up. I feel like Star Trek's Lower Decks is kind of too high. Keep it going. Keep it going. No, better than Wonder Egg. Man, it hurts. It hurts, but it's a personal preference thing, and it surprised me so much. I think we put it here. A tier, says Tulip. Well, there you go. There's your A tier. I feel like it's completely even with Central Park with how much I like it. Maybe I like it a little more because it's zanier and creative. We'll put it there. It doesn't have the sort of inspiration that like is it better than Owl? They're such different things. Damn it, though. I think personal preference Zombieland Saga is top of A. It's so like if you want something silly that somehow manages to get you invested, it's the best. Like it has me wanting to go watch more anime like it, even though there's no anime. I mean, other idol anime. No idol animes are going to be as silly about zombie girls like this is, but it just rules. It's like if you're looking for an anime that feels like it's a cartoon, that's one right there. It may not look as cartoony as some other animes do, but the way the way the humor is and stuff is very, very silly. It's perfect. And now I will take a sip of water and we will move on to our final category of video games, which is very, very hard to compare to movies and TV shows, so we'll see how this goes. All right. So how many of these video games have you people even heard of? That's the fun part. So Pikmin Bloom is the Pikmin Pokemon Go style mobile game, and I hate to say it because I love Pikmin so much, and this idea seemed like it would have been awesome, but it's bad. It's really bad. It just doesn't. They just like the fun of Pikmin to me is like the creature aspect and the collectathon aspect, and what they focus on in this game is you walk and plant flowers. And okay, that's a worthy gimmick, you know. I'll go for a walk and plant some flowers. Oh, the flowers only appear on the world map for like a week and then they disappear, despite the fact that the game is advertised to be like about this big community effort to grow a big virtual garden around the world, walk everywhere, meet new people while you're walking. But we erase all the progress that you make every week. Why? I'm sure maybe it's a data handling thing or something, but it just seems so weird. Like ever since the first time that I realized all my flowers went away after walking for a while, I like all my motivation to ever play it just stopped, because that's the only thing you do. Is the goal of it is to plant flowers. Yeah, you can grow Pikmin too by taking steps, but then what do the Pikmin do? All the Pikmin help you plant the flowers. Or you can send the Pikmin off to collect fruits, and then the fruits let you feed the Pikmin, and then that lets you grow more flowers. And it's like, they're almost there. I feel like they're going to shut this game down by the end of the year for sure. I don't know how many people, even when it first came out, I don't know how many people were playing it, because I don't know how many people really care for Pikmin. I think it's awesome that they made it, and Pikmin is alive. But this could have been much more interesting than it is. You know, they have to add a battle mechanic or add a collectible mechanic beyond just like, oh, this Pikmin can have a sticker on them. You know, because it has a mechanic where you can send Pikmin to places you've previously been, and they can collect an item for you and bring it back. So I feel like they should have that idea, but have there be more interesting items, just like in the games. Like have them go and collect like batteries and bottle caps and all sorts of little cool knickknacks, and let you build a collection of items rather than getting fruit that don't even go into a collection or have silly descriptions or anything like that. Like that's what the appeal of Pikmin is this the collectathon and the silly descriptions on the human items and the creatures, and somehow they didn't put any of that into this. So it, unfortunately, you know, we're not starting strong on the video games. Is it better than Inside Job? I mean, Inside Job didn't make me go outside on a walk. It made me walk away from the TV. Just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it gets a lot of points for being Pikmin, but it was a disappointment for sure. Next, World's End Club, which I probably shouldn't talk about for too long because nobody knows what this game is at all. This is the first game made together by the creator of Danganronpa, who made Akudama Drive, and the creator of Zero Escape, two amazing murder mystery exciting visual novels. And World's End Club is their first collab together, and it's not good. The problem with it is the buildup of it. I think for some reason they tried to do this joke where the game is a subversion, where they both advertised and the intro of the game tricks you into thinking that it's going to be more of a horror game in line with their other stories, but then it subverts that expectation and becomes what they literally have described as like a Goonies inspired Stranger Things sort of a silly adventure. And that is that works, but the juxtaposition of the expectation that the game sets for itself of being a horror game, and then the silliness of, you know, the Goonies style adventure that it goes for, there's no connection there at all. Like the fake horror game thing at the beginning is just there to subvert people, and it's like it comes off as mean-spirited even though it wasn't trying to be. And then overall, just the writing and stuff throughout the adventure isn't the best. Like it's adorable. It has some cool creative as heck plot twists, but I wish they would have implemented those plot twists into a game that was more exciting. I'm gonna keep it real with you, Danganronpa guy. People only care about Danganronpa. It's true, unfortunately. And I wish it wasn't true, because he, you know, I want to see him do other things for sure, because Danganronpa is so cool. And Akudama Drive was so cool. His new show, Tribe 9, that's coming out right now is pretty cool. I would assume the game for Tribe 9 will probably be more interesting than the show is as well. But, you know, World's End Club isn't it. But you know, they tried something. It was a commercial failure, I think, especially in Japan. So they probably will stick with making darker stories, which is good. But I appreciate that they were allowed the time to make something sillier and more lighthearted. But it just doesn't hold up to much else. But it's still better than Godzilla is Gone. I don't know where to put it really. Because I mean, I was more invested in it than I was in the SpongeBob movie. I feel like that's a worthy place. That's a worthy place. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, which I haven't finished yet, so it's not fair to judge it because I'm stuck on the damn Elite Four because I forgot that they were genuinely hard. Excuse me. You know, contrary to everybody complaining about Pokemon all the time, I was binge playing this because I started it back when it first came out and then like put it down because I had other games to play. But now that Legends Arceus is coming out, I was like, okay, I should just actually finish that so I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I've been playing it like almost nonstop for the past like week and a half, and it's like so fun. Pokemon's just so fun. You know, we can complain until the cows come home about how easy it is or how they're not doing anything new with the formula, yada yada yada. But it's fun. Like, and it's hitting all the nostalgia notes, and the style surprisingly is really adorable. I like the chibi style it goes for, and it actually environmentally, especially with the water animation and stuff, it does have nice graphics. What do people want from a remake exactly? I mean, that's you know, it's a whole can of worms to be talking about Pokemon, but it's fun. This is a fun game. It's the problem with it, my downside is that I mean, we're getting it with the Legends Arceus game, but I just wish there was a little bit more new to it, you know, because you look at Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, like those added like post-game quests and new characters, new character designs. Diamond and Pearl is unfortunately like directly one for one, and just because I love the gen so much, like it's my gen, I wish we could see like Cynthia in a new pose. Like literally all the gym leaders have the same default pose as their original sprites in the other game. Like I wish they had new outfits and new dialogue. I just wish there was a little bit more newness to it, you know, like some sort of new side quest beyond just the Grand Underground, which is a pretty cool addition and lets you get some nice Pokemon early and stuff. But you know, it just feels unfair that the other gens got so much new, and then we as in Gen 4 generation, which is our generation, you know, we got a great remake that's just as fun as the original games. It just, you know, is missing a little bit of newness to it, but it's so much fun. Pokemon's always just always going to be fun. I know other people are fatigued and they don't like how the games look now and stuff, but yeah, Tulip says it's not fair that we didn't get any new character designs like they did in the other remakes. Exactly. And it's so petty, but I mean, it's not petty because the other games got it, but that's what bothers me because I don't know, for some reason though, it's the human world of Pokemon and that interests me. I guess I also, the music's good enough. I wish the music could have been a little better, but it is all pretty good remixes of the other stuff. But yeah, Pokemon's fun. I like it. Excuse me. I think just to make people mad, let's put it somewhere high. I mean, it takes a lot for a game to make me want to play it as much as I've been playing this game. So I'm gonna say here, or sort of a little above the middle of A tier. Honestly, it's just fun. It's just fun, and I named all my Pokemon, and I love it. The music is I mean, it's the same. It is that's what I mean. Like, it's still great because it's the soundtrack, but I don't know. They could have made it a little more grandiose or something, and maybe had a few new tracks. They don't have to have new tracks. I mean, they could have at least. I didn't even realize this until now. The Elite Four has the same music as the gym leader battle. They could have at least made an original Elite Four battle music or something. Come on, but whatever. That's fine. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. Now this isn't even, you know, we have very diverse interests in video games. We're also probably going to end up taking 3 hours to do this, which I did not expect, but it's been very fun to talk about all this nonsense. See, it's hard for me to equate this because I adore this game. Like, this is such, especially considering the fact that one dude made it. This game is awesome. My problem is that Doki Doki Literature Club Plus is mainly just a port. It does have the side stories that are adorable, but I personally was expecting something more to the the secret creepypasta lore that the game sort of hides in it, and there's kind of nothing. I mean, there was recently like a website that they put up. I don't know if that actually went anywhere, but it kind of seemed like not enough people were paying attention to it to begin with. Like, there is some cool stuff in the game, but people didn't dig deep enough, so it just, like, the horror thing is what is coolest about the game to me, but the horror thing isn't really what this remake focuses on. It delivers on its goal, though. Doki Doki Literature Club is now available on consoles, and it's perfect as a port, and it adds adorable side stories because people really love the characters, and I mean, I do too. Playing it again made me realize that I like the characters more than I thought I did, but it's the creative design of the game as a horror subversion game and like thematic, the themes about our relation to fiction and stuff that makes it so interesting to me. And I just wish there was something a little more to this remake that added on top of that theme, but there kind of isn't really much there. But it's still one of my favorite games of all time. So this is gonna hurt because Doki Doki Literature Club, like the game, is in S tier for sure, but Doki Doki Literature Club Plus as like a pseudo sequel to the original game, even though it's technically just a port. I mean, I poured like 30 hours into it in a week, which is hard to ever make me do. But it just, it did disappoint me in how it didn't add anything to the mix, aside from adorable side stories that were adorable, but weren't what I personally wanted. So, I mean, I love the series so much, but we're gonna knock it down to the top of B. But just remember, if you somehow never played the original game, I say, like, the original game that this package does also contain is S tier in my opinion, but I'm rating more the additions to the game, and the additions weren't really all that much. Call of Duty Vanguard. Listen, this is the problem with me, is that I was just talking about Doki Doki Literature Club, and now I have to talk about Call of Duty Vanguard because I played both and enjoyed both to an extent. But Call of Duty I haven't played in a little while, and it's just, I mean, rightfully so. There's all the Activision stuff going on. I don't want anything to do with that, but it sucks and it's awful. But like, I want to avoid talking about very negative things like that as much as possible on the channel. There's other people that can discuss those things. So that aside, as a game, another installment in the Call of Duty series that I've been stuck playing ever since I was in middle school because I'm a white boy from suburbia, I like this game. I mean, it delivers on being another Call of Duty game, but everybody's kind of fatigued with that, and the fatigue and the hatred towards Activision is kind of all blending into my opinion and making me just kind of not have the hype for it that I had with last year's edition, the year before's edition, because the year before's edition, had a big amount of fan service with the Black Ops sub series, and had a really cool Cold War aesthetic and stuff. And Vanguard, it's just it's notably lesser than that, but the gameplay is as fun as it always is. There's a ton of small maps in the game, which is the best thing about Call of Duty. Is just like getting a sugar rush of playing a small map and getting a trillion kills and seeing a bunch of numbers go up. Like, it's always a blast. It's never not going to be a blast, but people don't like talking about Call of Duty anymore. We're gonna knock this. It hurts a little bit because I'm still gonna like play it a lot, but we'll put it here. We'll put it there, sure. again, it's impossible to compare a video game to like a movie, but whatever. Next, Danganronpa S. More, I mean, there's two other visual novel. There's a few more visual novel type stuff going on here, but Danganronpa S. They call it that because it sucks. It's Danganronpa sucks. Danganronpa S is a expanded mini game based on a mini game that was in one of the previous games. And I mean, they do succeed in their mission of making that mini game more interesting and less obnoxiously luck based. But it just makes you realize that it's not fun. And they, for a completion of the story in quotes that exists in this game, they expect you to play the mini game a lot. And like, I don't want to play it as much as they expect you to. I don't know how many people actually enjoy the gameplay that's present in this, but it's very mind-numbing. The cute interactions are great. You know, seeing new character models with the bathing suits on is like charming. It's charming to see the characters interacting, and the writing's as silly as ever. Like, it's a good fan service thing, but you know, just give us a new real game eventually. Like, it's not like I would say World's End Club is better than it. I would even say the SpongeBob movie is better than it, honestly. And it hurts to say that, but it just didn't amount to any sort of expectation. I think let's stick to visual novels for a second here, because I think these are the only visual novels left on this list. Famicom Detective Club is a game that I'm surprised nobody cared about at all. But Famicom Detective Club is a remake of previously Japanese exclusive Nintendo produced murder mystery visual novels. And I'm really surprised that, like, first of all, I was blown away that they even made it at all. Like, when they showed these during the direct, I was so excited. Not that I had any sort of, you know, base fandom, you know, it's not like I was really that aware of these games. I just thought it was awesome that they would have remade these. You're not going to get to Deltarune until 10 p.m. I know, I got to speed it up, I'm sorry. But but I just thought it was so cool they made these games, but then nobody cared. And I mean, I guess weirdly with right reason, because they update the graphics, they don't do anything to the gameplay, and these have really, really archaic visual novel gameplay. Like, I had to use a guide for the entire game to understand what to do, because the things you need to do to progress are so horribly hyper specific. You like, it gives you dialogue options that you need to just press, and then you press something else and you press something again. And it's not like a modern visual novel where there's very clear indication of what to do, and it just pushes the story forward constantly. Like, yeah, okay, that removes the gameplay, but it still creates the illusion of gameplay, like in Ace Attorney, where like something turns yellow because you gotta click on it and things like that. So, you know, the illusion of gameplay is better than the attempted actual gameplay that Famicom Detective Club games have, because it's just so hard to figure out what to do. And the stories are pretty good, though. You know, they are entertaining little stories. This second game, The Girl Who Stands Behind, that's what it's called, I was trying to remember, is definitely much better than this one, because this one just kind of has a generic like murder mansion thing going on. But this has a high school setting. It has a lot more quirkiness to it, like a lot more quirkiness. If anything, that's what surprised me, is how quirky these games were, and how they do plot twists that like play on the visual novel like format, which was kind of cool. Like, your name input amounts to a plot twist, which I think was very cool, especially for something that was, you know, one of the first visual novels from the 80s. They're pretty good. They're pretty good, but they're just very tough to get through without. I mean, they're basically near impossible to get through without a guide. Where would I put them? I think above these. Yeah, I'd say Girl Who Stands Behind can go there, and the first one can go. I mean, that feels like it's way down, but first one can go. I want to be after Encanto. There we go. Okay, Gnosia. Again, this is kind of a thing I put on here because I want to talk about it. I never beat it. Another visual novel that, from the way it was advertised, seemed like it was going to be a very weird, like permadeath style Danganronpa-esque, like locked room killing game type deal. but it's not. It's literally actually single player Among Us, or single player Werewolf, I guess is like the original like tabletop game or something. But it literally, like, you're playing Among Us with AI. That's what the game is, and you do dialogue options to make the AI like you, to trust your vote towards somebody else and stuff like that. And it's just not what I wanted from it. It's not what I thought it would be. Maybe there is a story to it if you play more, but from my progress in it, maybe like I have 4 hours of progress in it, and you know, it has you play Among Us against an AI like 40 plus times before there's any story progression. So wasn't a fit. It has a cool style though. It's cool that it got localized, but it is not what I wanted, and it's better than Pikmin. Okay, do we want? We could talk about Deltarune because it's gonna take forever. We're gonna try to speed things up here, even though I don't really want to, but this took so long. Deltarune's awesome. What more could be said? If you haven't played it, it's free. You gotta play it. It's just, what blows me away about Deltarune Chapter 2 specifically is how much is poured into it. Like every single day on Twitter, I'm finding learning about some new Easter egg, which is like some new random piece of dialogue. Like Toby Fox thought of every single possible combination of events that could occur in this game and made some sort of reward or joke or whatever about every single possible thing that could happen in the game, and all sorts of Easter eggs and spam tins in it. And I mean, come on, spam tins in it, and the music. You can't beat the music. I think my favorite song is Attack of the Killer Queen. That's when I was playing the game, I felt like I didn't like that song as much as I do now, but now when I listen to it and it just gets to that do, you're just like, oh, it just rules. It just rules, and it stinks that we gotta wait forever for more. But I mean, man, if he's gonna actually drop every chapter on the same day, that's gonna be a big game. Maybe some chapters will be shorter than others, but the depth of his storytelling, it's just the depth of his storytelling that's on display in Deltarune Chapter 2 just bodes so well for what could come for the rest of the series. I'm gonna say, dare I say it's better than Adventure Time Together again. Ouch. Maybe it's not. I don't know. That's tough. Maybe it's not. Yeah. I mean, Adventure Time has the personal thing going on that gives it points, but Deltarune is freaking just awesome. Like you can't not love Deltarune. Five Nights at Freddy's. We'll talk about all the meme things. Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, technically, this shouldn't be here because I didn't play it myself. I just watched Amp, who is in chat, play all of it. So maybe we should have a category of did not actually play but experience secondhand. But it's cool. But I was expecting a little more from it, from the way that it was being built up, because I was watching all the PlayStation Directs and stuff. Like I thought there'd be a bit more overt storytelling in it, but it's kind of just very directly a horror game, Metroidvania, and it has some cool sequences. Like the sequence with the Music Man spider thing is like it's not that visually, impressive or anything like that. The game's made by like 9 people, but it was that was a cool sequence, and it had cool music and cool theming and stuff. And it's a pretty cool game. It's full of bugs. Clearly it was full of bugs from just watching it be played. But it's still a good time. What disappointed me was the lack of, and I mean, I guess that's kind of a staple of the FNAF franchise, is that like it's always secretive with its storytelling, but the way that this game was being presented in its trailers seemed like it was going to have more storytelling going on than it does, but it's kind of just a very direct, like, we gotta get out of here type of thing. And it does have like some special extra secret endings, some of which I still haven't seen, but they go by like in a flash. Like it's not like the lore that should be here feels like it isn't, because they had to cut it out. But there are still some cool Easter eggs and stuff, but it could have been more. But then again, you have to consider that it was made by like 7 people. That two people quit, I guess, because I said 9 last time, didn't I? I'd put this in B somewhere. I mean, it's impressive. I gotta admit that I probably got more enjoyment out of it than I did of Encanto. Encanto's like the base point that we compare everything to. Tulip's talking about Deltarune. He's saying Deltarune. Or she's saying Deltarune would go above Adventure Time together again. I mean, yeah, I feel like they're even in my head. That's what the problem is, that Adventure Time gets the brownie points because of the scope of it, or what it means. Sorry, gotta scroll up. What it means for like that franchise that I grew up with. But Deltarune is just like the most interesting like singular chapter of like a silly RPG ever made. Like, it's just so cool. It's so full of stuff. It's so funny. It's always going to be funny, and that's something that Deltarune and Undertale do so good, is that even when you know the jokes, you're still going to laugh at it. Like, it rules. And then Amp said about FNAF, it's just definitely rushed, but it's still a very quality game. Yeah, I mean, it's extremely competent. I know that's like that sounds like a rude thing to say, but yeah, like they just had too big of a scope, I think, and they kind of definitely had to cut things down because they had to have it come out soon, because it's a franchise that is built on merch and stuff, and they had to have the merch out and things like that. But hopefully it'll get some updates and the bugs can be fixed, and they can hopefully add some sort of DLC or free upgrade expansion route that can give us a little more context to like some of the weird story stuff that happens that just seems like it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I put friggin' Jackbox on here. I've barely gotten to play it, but the Job game where it's like Quiplash, but you make answers based on other people's answers. Like you play like word scrambling. That game rules. I don't remember what else is in it though. Aside from that one, I don't remember the others because I can't see them in this picture. But Job is awesome. The one downside to it is that I wish all the questions weren't based on job stuff. Like, if it just had a Quiplash format, if it wasn't themed around a job application, it was just Quiplash, but you made your answers based on random words, like that would make Quiplash 80 times better than it is, because Quiplash is honestly kind of boring because it's just like you were just writing a joke. Quiplash doesn't require as much creativity as people think it does. It's just very, very easy to explain. But yeah, Job rules. Tulip, what else is in Jackbox 8? Because I really can't remember. I don't know, where the hell do I put it? I mean, it's better than Call of Duty, I guess. I don't know. That's a weird one to equate. We'll just put it there. But it's a fantastic party game. The murder mystery one is confusing. Oh yes, okay. It loses points, but I had no idea how that murder mystery game worked at all. Drawful Animate's in it. That one is good. Yes, that one's enjoyable. It's just kind of weird though. Drawful Animate, like, they could do something else with that animation gimmick, I think, that Drawful Animate doesn't really do. Because Drawful Animate, you just draw 2 frames and then people guess what it is. Like, they could do something else with being able to animate your drawing. And then there's the trivia game with the big wheel that was, I feel like that's just one of those ones that takes too long. And most people aren't good at the trivia that game like that give you. At least the people that I play with. Pole Mine is cool too. Pole Mine's like tense. Pole Mine has good tension, but maybe it would work a lot better if you had a Twitch chat and stuff. Amp says, how come we haven't played this one? Actually we haven't, because I haven't had a laptop until recently to be able to hook it up to a TV and stuff. That's actually why we haven't played it, Amp. But now we can. That's literally part of why I made sure I bought a laptop, because I want to be able to get back into playing those. Because I buy them on my computer because I'm insane. But also they have the cheapest prices on PC. Anyways, next is Binding of Isaac Repentance, which is a expansion pack for Binding of Isaac that doesn't technically count as its own game. But man, this thing freaking ruled. It launched with some bugs, but still had the smoothest launch of any other Binding of Isaac content, which is good. it refueled my love for this game's concept and its creator, and it has so many surprises, like the themes it covers, the cinematic nature of the added final bosses, and the polish of all the animation across the entire game, and the rebalancing of the items. It made it feel like a new game, and it made it feel more complete than it ever has. Like, this was absolutely a necessary final upgrade for the game, and it just rules. And again, there's a lot of like personal preference stuff going on. I feel like it's hard to compare to Deltarune because they're very different types of games. I feel like Deltarune, makes you laugh. I guess Binding of Isaac makes you want to throw your controller across the room, but it's just so cool, and it made me cry too. It has some sad stuff in it, man. It brought me back to watching, all these YouTubers who play this game. Like, they all started playing it again. They all started loving it again, talking about the secrets and this, all sorts of this new discoverability and the hype of trying to find the secrets myself. Like, it's something that you just don't always get every day, and it was a blast. Crash Bandicoot 4 didn't come out. Oh no, I think the PS5 upgrade came out last year, and that's what I'm counting here. I didn't finish it because I got mad at it because it gets really hard in the last world, which isn't fair. But I just, these games aren't for me, for sure. I can handle hard games. Like, I like Isaac, I like Super Meat Boy, I like anything that Ed McMillan puts out, basically. But Crash Bandicoot felt hard in a way where, like, I was dying because I didn't like how the game controlled and stuff like that. And if I'm not enjoying myself, why continue going? I just wanted to like this game because it's gorgeous. Like, it's amazing that they were able to put as much animation, passion, and stuff into this game, and some of the voice acting is really funny and all that. Like, it is a great product. It just ended up not really being for me. And Blue Scout says we're never getting a new Crash game, huh? Yeah, probably. It's possible now with the Microsoft buying Activision type deal, they'll do something, but the studio that made Crash, like a few months after Crash 4 came out, they told that studio to work on Call of Duty instead. So I think they're just done with Crash, even though this game sold well and all that stuff, and they put so much passion into it, like I was saying. But oh well. Amp says bad at game. I mean, yeah, it's true though. But if I'm bad at the game and don't feel the passion to want to become good enough at it to be able to beat it, then it's not a game I liked. But I can appreciate it. It does rule. We can put it here somewhere. I'd say here. I'd say better. Probably better than. Yeah, there. We'll put the visual novel above the platformer. All right, get one last sip of my drink, and then we will get going. We will blaze through. All right. About Crash 4, Blue Scout says, my only complaint is how they hid the boxes. Absurd. Nobody will do that without a guide. Yeah, I could see that too. I think I just gave up on trying to get the boxes like very, very, very early on. Metopia. Let's hope that my buddy Snow is not in the chat because they love this game, but I don't at all. Like, Metopia is like that. The best, of course, you have to say though, the upgraded Mii Maker that they put into this game rules, and the way that people are able to use that blows my freaking mind. And it's awesome that you could have so many like weirdly photo accurate cartoon characters and stuff as Mii's now. Like, that is awesome. And I don't think that they would design that sort of mechanic and not implement it into a future game. So I hope we get a Tomodachi Life or a better Metopia or something like that. But like, the problem with Metopia is that it is a extremely simple RPG where you just watch your characters walk in a straight line the whole time. Like, that's the whole game. You watch them. Like, I guess that streamlines the RPG concept as a genre, but it's so boring. it's it's like a 30-hour game, and you just watch your Mii's walk in a straight line. And there's like, you know, the charm is making your own casts and having characters interact and all that stuff, but it's just boring. You know, like it could have been so much more interesting if, like I expected when it first came out on the DS, if it was a Tomodachi Life type deal and you, like, you know, reign your own kingdom or something like that. But it just being like a pre-made RPG that you put your own characters in, it doesn't work, and it's not as quirky as it can be either. I feel like the humor and stuff that's present in it isn't like as funny as they think it is. You know, I think it could be much sillier, and I would like to see it maybe done again and have more interesting mechanics and stuff, because the watching your Mii walk in a straight line, like, is so dull. Like, I thought I would enjoy it the second time around more than I did on the DS, but I just disliked it even more. Plus, it expects you to replay levels to find hidden chests and stuff like that for 100% completion. And that just makes the game take like 90 times longer, because you just watch your Mii's walk in a straight line. It may as well just have the battle, like the world map should just be encounters, and you just click on it and then you do a battle and then you go to the next part. Like, why have the weird segmented areas where you gotta watch them walking and talking and stuff? Like, yeah, okay, they get quirky dialogue, I guess. It's cute to see your favorite characters together, but it could have been so much more interesting. I guess it has a post-game thing that's really difficult, but I don't want to endure the 30 hours of the adventure to make it to that point. Dare I say. I mean, just because of the Mii Maker, it's got to be up there. But I would say it's there because the gameplay is nothing, basically. I think designing the really cool advanced Mii Maker and then never using it again is exactly something Nintendo would do. Sad face. Maybe. But I think it's just so weird in general that they made Miitopia a second time at all. You know? Like, why did they do that? It made me so happy. But then I got the game and I remembered that it's not actually like much of a game. But, you know, I would hope and pray that they give us Tomodachi Life and they give us that Mii Maker, and then that will like be my favorite game. Because I love Tomodachi Life because it's so simple and so fast, and making your own little crossovers is so adorable in the way that game does it. So I hope we get something like that soon. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is a blast. It rules. It's so fast-paced and insane. It, you know, yeah, okay, it lacks a little bit of polish because it's an indie studio and they didn't let them have voice acting, but they're supposedly adding it soon. But I mean, man, it delivered on being exactly what you wanted it to be. You know, it's a Melee-inspired Nickelodeon fighting game, and it's got to be the best Smash Bros. Knockoff fighting game that exists. It's just it just plays in such a fun way, and it's so frantic, and playing it with people is so addictive. It rules. Like, it could go to have a little more content. Games like this focus more on the multiplayer side of things, you know, so it's not like it's going to have a story mode or trophy collectibles or things like that, especially considering the scope of it. But you know, me personally, my favorite thing about Smash is the abundance of single player stuff it has to do. So it is just I haven't put too much time into this because there's not much to do other than play online, and it's hard to I mean, it's just, I don't have fun playing online because everybody's always better than you. I'm excited to see if Nick Brawl is better than Encanto. Listen, it is. It's just such a blast. I almost feel like I want to put it above Boss Baby, dare I say. I don't know. I feel like I think right here makes sense. Again, there's just kind of a lack of interesting content for me personally to engage with that drags it down, but as a core gameplay sort of showcase, like, it succeeds in its mission, and I'm glad that they're adding on to it. And the devs have so much passion for the idea. The devs definitely have more passion for the fact that they're making a game that's like competitively viable and things like that, which, you know, rules for them. It's not like, and they, you know, handled the Nickelodeon characters amazingly well too. But you know, I would hope that we can get just pack this thing with more characters. Who cares about balancing? I want to play as Dib and the Chalk Zone guy and Mr. Meaty. Persona 5 Strikers, which I forgot even was on this list. Persona 5 Strikers is freaking awesome. It is a direct sequel to Persona 5, but it has a very absurd beat 'em up style gameplay that also implements a lot of RPG elements from the Persona games, which was a big surprise. But most of the game, even though it seems like it's a beat 'em up, you're actually going to be looking in a menu like for most of the game and like recharging your SP over and over and over and over again. It certainly gets repetitive. There's a lot of boss fights and things that felt like they were like total brick walls that took forever to nail down, but it's still a blast to play. And I just love the cast that this game has, and like seeing the cast together again in a new story, hearing their voices, hearing all the classic music, doing the daily tasks, even though this game kind of does daily tasks in a different sort of way. It was a blast. This game, now that I'm remembering it, like this is a very, very, very fun game. I'm not wrong. I don't think I'm wrong in saying that this was like one of my favorite games, honestly. It's another one example too, like this is like a 40-hour game and I beat it in a month, and like I haven't been doing that lately, but this game was so much fun to go back to every day and progress the story and fight some baddies and level up my abilities and everything. It's Persona goodness, and I hope that people didn't miss out on it because they thought it was some weird spin-off. Like it is a direct continuation, and it was free on PlayStation Plus the other or it currently is, actually, I think. So hopefully more people are getting their hands on it. Don't tell me you forgot who's got the chalk. Rudy's got the chalk. That's not how the song goes. All right, next, Psychonauts 2, which I was very excited to get to. I almost boosted it up after Deltarune because Psychonauts 2 is so cool. Like, I'd say the if we want to talk disappointment first, I played Psychonauts 1 this year all the way through for the first time. I was trying to play it like a year or two ago, but didn't finish it. But now this year I've started over again, finished it, and went right into Psychonauts 2. So definitely Psychonauts 2, it lacks it's not as weird as the first game. It doesn't have as weird of a cast. It's much more modernized and normal and story focused, which was a big surprise. Like that's kind of the plus side to it, is that the story is like very dark and interesting and deep in a way that you would not expect. But it was a great story to play through. I just think with the aesthetic that the series has and the way that the first game establishes itself, it could have gone, you know, I wish that this had more quirkiness to it, more of the quirkiness that the original game had. But still, the quirkiness that's on display is fine, but the story is like, it kind of blows you away with the directions it takes and stuff. It's not sort of the best twists I've ever seen and things like that, but just the fact that it has a story that it takes as seriously as it does was a very, very pleasant surprise, and I could see how so many people fell in love with it back when it came out. Even though it ended up not getting not winning any game awards for some reason, even though it's amazing. Because visually it's amazing, the music's amazing, the cast is hilarious, and the gameplay is like the best feeling 3D platformer gameplay you're gonna get, because it's very rare for games like this to be made, especially on as big of a budget as this one had. So it rules. It has some awesome stuff going on. It has some of the coolest level designs ever. Maybe not level designs, but like level concepts and visuals, you know? Like maybe gameplay wise, you're actually kind of playing what sort of feels like, you know, kind of generic-y like platforming levels, but it's the aesthetic design behind the levels that makes them so cool. Like even right off the bat, the first level that's like a morbid dentist nightmare is like disgusting, but it's like one of the coolest settings I've ever seen in a game. So I love me Psychonauts, very surprisingly. Did I love me Psychonauts more than Mitchells vs. Machines? Honestly, that's a very tough one, because I'm trying to think in regards of story. I mean, it's hard to compare a movie and a video game, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Psychonauts is more my vibe, honestly, just a little bit more, but they're about the same. in that S rank here, and that like I was very surprised to have Psychonauts 2 end up be one of the best games that I've played last year, but it was great and I loved it. We're now at 3 hours and 10 minutes, so we gotta go. Ratchet and Clank. I'm surprised this came out last year too. Ratchet and Clank. The biggest problem with it is that it is very short, and I literally got 100% completion in it within less than 9 hours, or like exactly 9 hours or something. And for a game priced at the price that this game is, that's kind of ridiculous. But oh my goodness, it's polished, it's gorgeous, it's a blast to play. The story, I guess, is, you know, a lot of people, because I've seen reviews and stuff after I played it, I'm noticing like, okay, the story is kind of clean and very simple. I wish that they went in a bit of a direction that pushes the franchise's lore forward a little more. It doesn't really do that. It kind of just introduces one new character and that's it. But I would hope that we get more Ratchet and Clank games, because even just the fact that we got a Ratchet and Clank game at all was the big surprise to me. And it's a ton of fun. It's just unfortunately really short, but it's gorgeous and it's fun, and those things boost it up quite a bit. But is it as fun as Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl? I mean, it has to be, because it has to be better than I feel like it's definitely better than that Famicom Detective game was. I'm gonna say right there feels good. I mean, Boss Baby is better than Ratchet and Clank. I guess so. I guess so. Where's Metopia? Metopia is unfortunately down there in C. Next is another game that I haven't finished, but I am currently actively playing it because I got it for Christmas. Is the Guardians of the Galaxy game, which I love. I'm very surprised by how good this game is, because it was like a secret. It was like a surprise reveal at E3, and it came out like 2 months later, and it's really, really polished. It's so much fun. I love that it has like more of an action RPG style rather than being like a shooter game, and it has a big dialogue focus, which makes a lot of sense, you know, because what you love about Guardians of the Galaxy, if you love it, is going to be the cast. So the fact that it has like the Telltale game element of like a lot of choice-based stuff, it kind of seems like the consequences for the choices, like, they're not noticeable. So it's either they're really good at being seamless, or no matter what choices you make, the same kind of things are going to happen, which is usually the case with these games. But I guess I would have to find that out. But it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. It's very visually impressive, like very visually impressive. Like it looks very, very good. And it's full of like 80s music and 70s music and stuff, and it does a really good job of actually using that music. Like during a battle scene, when you activate your super ability, it'll start blasting some random song, and that's just always so satisfying. So I'm loving this game so far, like a lot. I think I'm gonna put this I feel like Star Trek Lower Decks is a little too high, honestly, still. I mean, I don't know, yeah. This is A-worthy stuff here. I feel like it's not quite Wonder Egg. I feel like that's a good spot for that. Mario 3D World. Technically, a game that I didn't finish because I only played the main story of 3D World, a little bit of Bowser's Fury, and I never did the 3 bonus worlds that this game has for some reason. It's a blast. I beat it over the weekend during my off time at my job, which is basically the only reason I bought it, because I was like, oh, it would be cool to have that to play it on my Switch while I'm at work, while I have downtime. So that's why I did. That's what I did. And you know, it's a blast. It's fun. It's super polished. It's Mario. You know, it's Mario. But honestly, weirdly enough, I feel like that's where it should go. I'm not the super most Mario sort of guy, you know, but that's a very, very fun, well-produced game, of course. We'll get to D4DJ Groovy Mix. Great Ace Attorney, I still haven't freaking finished because it's so long, but boy, am I ecstatic that this game even got localized at all. I unfortunately, as much as I love Ace Attorney and I love murder mystery visual novels, I'm kind of surprised by how uninterested I am in this specific game. Like, people really, really hype this game up, and I don't know why. Are there people who are just really into this time period, or like is it just the fact that it's like a game that we didn't think was going to be translated, so that makes people like it even more because they have to like stan it to like make Capcom notice them to get it localized type of deal. Because I think it's not a fault of the game, because it's the point that it's a little more grounded than Ace Attorney sort of usually is, but it's not hitting me in the same way that I feel like Ace Attorney did originally. But maybe that's also a result of my expectations and interests being a little different, because now that I've played Danganronpa, I want my murder mysteries to be much more sillier and way flashier. And Great Ace Attorney is like, aside from the way the characters behave and are animated and stuff, is a very like grounded, like it's in this setting, and this setting is what you get, and they write it really well. It just doesn't appeal to me as much as something else would. Like, doesn't even appeal to me as much as the base Ace Attorney trilogy. So I really haven't finished it because I keep not really being that interested in it, but I know I gotta finish it. And I mean, the fact that it's 2 fully localized visual novel games, it's massive. Like, if you want to take the time to read extra lines of dialogue and stuff like I was doing for the first game, but now I stopped because I realized that takes so much time. It's a blast. If that's the kind of thing you're looking for, it's great. It's well produced, and I'm ecstatic that it got made. But it's just my personal preferences for this sort of thing. It's not really, it's not matching my personal tastes. D4 DJ Groovy Mix. I don't even know where to put this. This is a mobile rhythm game based off of an anime that I'm now currently watching and love because it's painfully adorable. And it's just I've been playing games like this for a little while because it's so fun to just pick up and play a little anime rhythm game and collect your gems and all that stuff. It's just pure. It's a dopamine, like little piece of candy thing when I don't have anything else to do. And I mean, the fact that I've just consistently played it for a whole year, and I was literally playing it earlier today, like it's fun and addictive. It's constantly getting updates. It's really polished in ways that other anime mobile games aren't, because they're kind of older. This one is brand spanking new from last year. So, it's full of polish. It has really nice art. It runs at a full 60 FPS frame rate. It's a blast, and it's very aesthetically pleasing and enjoyable to play. So we're gonna put that in A somewhere. Maybe just the bottom of A, I guess. It's not like it's the best game ever made. It's just a grindy mobile rhythm game, but it's fun, and the polish that it has, especially the artwork for like the character cards that you collect. The artwork is so nice. Like, I don't know what kind of artists they have working at this studio, because this isn't even a franchise that's that well established or anything, but like it is so cool. WarioWare is freaking awesome. Weirdly, the number one thing that drags this WarioWare game down is the fact that it tries to have a storyline with like little dialogue scenes before every level, like not the animated cutscenes, like the cutscenes of Wario inside the game trying to explain like, oh, I am inside the game, wow. None of those are funny. Like, you would think that they would be good at writing a funny story for WarioWare, but they weren't. It kind of just wastes your time whenever you got to start a new level and you got to listen to some dialogue that you're just like, oh, okay, they're just like explaining what's happening. It's the animated cutscenes where the humor is, even though they go really surreal with them. I was seeing a review of somebody being like, these cutscenes made no sense, it wasn't even funny, it was just weird. And I was like, I like that it's weird. Let the WarioWare team be as weird as they possibly can be, because it's not every day they make a new game. But the core gameplay here is really addictive. There was a really fun leaderboard score chase mode where you could compete with people online. It's still going because they have 100 different challenges that they're going to go through that updates every week. I'm very behind on doing it, but I was consistently doing it for a while. But some of them are just so hard that it's not even fun to play. But just the core game is as fun as it always is, and the gimmick of controlling the characters surprisingly makes things really fun and makes you realize how much effort they must have had to put into designing every game to work with each character. Some characters, suck and you should never play as them, but the only benefit to playing as them is in the score mode, where they give you more points because they're harder. But just playing the way you want, as again, much like the rhythm game, as like just a candy thing, is a lot of fun. I would say especially with how much I've played this game, I would say there works out. And our final game, which technically didn't even come out last year, Super Meat Boy Forever from 2020, is a game that I've been meaning to stream, and nobody likes it. I can see why nobody likes it. Because this game is an auto runner, unlike the original Super Meat Boy, which was a very precise, difficult platformer. Super Meat Boy Forever is a auto running platformer where all you do is press the jump button and time punches and stuff. But man, you hear that description and you're like, oh, okay, like the Impossible game, kind of, but it still has wall jumping. It adds a punch and a kick, and every world introduces all sorts of different gimmicks to keep things really, really interesting. And it's just gorgeous. Like the silly animation, like you could tell they hired some very, very talented animators to work on this. It's just so sad that people can't get over the hurdle that it, like, oh, this is just a mobile game, but they put it on a console. But it really, like, it isn't, because the whole story behind the game's development was that it was going to be a mobile game, but then they realized the potential of it and made it a console game because the movement ended up being more complicated than they expected, and they went crazy with level designs. So I really love it, like way more than other people do, but I can understand the distaste for it. And the game kind of doesn't teach you much either. Like I remember tuning into a stream of somebody like not knowing how to get past an obstacle because they didn't understand one of the mechanics of the movement, which is fair because the game doesn't like teach you it. And the music's awesome as well. It's full of content because it has randomly generated levels, but I think they could have explained the randomly generated levels a lot better, because they basically don't nothing in the game except for the new game plus button and the seed that it shows you when you start a save file indicates that the game is randomized. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to play through it and not even realize that the gimmick of the game is that it's an infinite platformer. And that's just something that's so cool, and it makes it very interesting to speedrun, because I mean, you could really just, it's hard, yeah, you'll die a lot, but you could beat it in like 4 hours if you were just sitting there playing it. So it's a blast. I love it, and I'm sad that others don't love it, but I guess I can see why they don't. But it's a perfect little nostalgic thing for me. I'm gonna honestly say, yeah, I'm gonna say right there is good. And then with that, we completed the tier list that took 3.5 hours. Whoops. But hopefully that was a blast. I had a blast doing that, because it's such a good, that's why I wanted to do it, because it's such a good excuse for me to talk about things that I don't normally get to talk about, because a lot of these are very niche interests. I mean, there's a ton of visual novels, but then there's also Marvel movies and Call of Duty and Rick and Morty. I recognize a lot of people come here for cartoon discussion, but I want to be able to talk about all the media I like. That's the goal of my channel, is to share everything that I enjoy. And I enjoy a lot of very, very weirdly different things. So I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. We can soak in, what we're looking at. Space Jam 2 definitely deserves to be the worst thing. Violet Evergarden deserves to be the best thing because of how strongly and emotionally affected me. Last Night in Soho was just like so cool. Adventure Time. Excuse me, Adventure Time is Adventure Time. Deltarune is Deltarune. Not much more you can say about that. Yeah, and now Tulip says, I would like to see your other list sometimes. Amp says, do another list, please. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I do have a second list made of stuff that I remember watching last year, which I can absolutely cover in another stream, but it's mostly anime. Because it's been so long since I've watched, like, I need to get off my bum and like go back and watch animated movies that I missed out on and animated shows that I missed out on, because I was racking my brain really hard to remember, like, what did I watch last year that wasn't new, and there really wasn't that much. And I gotta get better at that, so we can have an even bigger tier list for next year, and so I can have a bigger pop culture understanding of what goes on, because there's definitely a lot of iconic stuff that I haven't seen, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, that's something I hope to probably watch this year, maybe, but don't count on it. And I was looking through at other tier lists that people made. There's a lot of interesting discussion we can end up having. I just didn't realize this would take as long as it did, but I'm glad it did. And I'm glad that you guys stuck through and listened to my hyper-specific opinions about my very niche interests. It was a lot of fun. I'll screenshot this and post it eventually to spoil the video. I did want to edit this down into a video I could upload, but it ended up being really long, so I guess I'm just gonna have to cut out a lot of stuff if I do that. Here we go. We can get ready for this. Ready for the lo-fi bedtime music. I chose this song specifically to end streams if you can even hear it. So thank you guys very much for coming. Now that that's done, I wanted to get this done sooner, of course, because you know, a tier list for the top things of 2021 isn't even going to be really all that relevant in the middle of January, like in terms of click rate and things like that. But I was working a lot. I had jury duty, which ended up being canceled, and I didn't get the email about it until I freaking drove all the way there. And I ended up sick, so I had to delay it till now, but I'm glad we got it done. I'm sorry it took so long to go through it, but I mean, it was worth being able to talk about all those things in so much detail. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I will absolutely come back with some other tier lists, but I think for now, spoilers, I'm definitely going to work on another Pibby discussion video because people eat that up. I don't know if people will still eat it up. I'm really curious to know if another Pibby comment theory review video is going to like do any numbers at all. So that's why I want to make one. And then after that, I don't really have much of a plan. I know there's I guess we'll cover some movies and stuff. Oh no, actually I do want to watch Smiling Friends. I don't know if I will, but that by the time I'm able to find the time to review that, it probably won't be relevant anymore. But that's the talk of the town. I guess the Cuphead show is coming out soon, which is a surprise. I guess that's definitely something. I think Cuphead is a guaranteed thing I will talk about. That's the end of February or something. So yeah, I greatly appreciate you guys tuning into that, putting up with my niche blabbing nonsense. I will definitely be back with some more streams soon and some more videos, so I hope you all stay tuned and are excited. And we will find some more interesting tier lists to do beyond my one remaining custom made one that I will absolutely cover. I saw it'd be very daunting, and I've thought about this in the past as well, but there is a tier list ranking every single episode of Adventure Time, and that might be like a 4-part video, but we could maybe do that eventually. I feel like that would be a very fun thing to do if I can rope in a lot of people who are Adventure Time fans to watch that video, and also maybe do the same. I think like if the small net community of Adventure Time fans like all made their own separate tier list videos ranking the episodes, I think that would be such a fun little community event. So I wonder if we can garner something like that eventually. There's also a list of every Invader Zim episode, which is another thing I would absolutely want to do. Although I don't know how many people out there are as big of fans of that show as I am, but that would be fun to do. So yeah, there's a lot on the table. I'm glad you guys tuned in for this. I'm glad it was so much fun to do. If you ever want to look at that tier list again, I will definitely post a picture on Twitter and on my community feed and stuff. Thank you all for watching, and Boss Baby 2 is back.